This is not the United States of Patrick Bet-David. This is the United States of America.
Would you take money from a capitalist to help you go see specialists?
I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
But would you also be open to seeing somebody else I choose as a psychologist that may...
No.
You're not?
No.
When you're offering people here jobs, right? You're saying that they would have to pay you money to get that. So in reality, you're trying to convince them to pay you money to be part of your company.
Claims of defaming. Be very careful defaming when you don't know the fact. I'm Patrick Bet-David. I'm an entrepreneur and founder of PBD Podcast. Today, I'm surrounded by 20 anti-capitalists. My first claim is incentive is the engine of capitalism. Remove it and the system fails.
Great to meet you, Patrick.
What's your name?
My name's Mason.
Mason, good to meet you.
Yeah. I'm value-tained. I'm a big fan of the channel.
Are you really?
Yeah, I do watch you quite regularly.
Very cool.
I do not agree with your claim. I don't think that incentives are only born out of capitalism.
Okay.
Most capitalist defenders say that incentive is because of scarcity, and people's ability to get what is necessary pushes them to work harder. I disagree with that. I'd say that some of our hardest workers are single moms working 3 to 4 jobs, and the resources that they're able to acquire compared to those that utilize their workers in order to build profit for their own companies is not equivocal.
So how would you do it? How would you change it?
Yeah, so I think that humans inherently want to be meaningful. They want to contribute to their communities. They want to contribute to society. When you look at depression rates, oftentimes it's people who aren't able to do anything besides laying in their bed and basically barely taking care of themselves. So I think that it's just a human intrinsic value to want to bring value to their community or grander society.
Okay,
so I don't think that it has to be through scarcity alone that scares people into working, if that makes sense.
I worked for scarcity. I think there's levels to it. You have the survival folks who work for survival to pay their bills. Some work for status, some work for freedom, and some work for legacy. The folks that work 3 or 5 jobs, to pay their bills and do what they're doing, if the incentive wasn't there, they wouldn't work 3 to 5 jobs. Some of the guys that build a bigger business that solve a lot of problems.
The incentive there is either I die or I work. That's not really a system that rewards merit. That's a system that pushes people into insecure positions.
Not necessarily. In many cases, we put ourselves in situations as well. But when we're talking incentive...
Are you saying that it's an individual failure for these single mothers that are working 3 to 4 jobs?
For some of them, it is.
Interesting.
For some of them, it is.
I'm glad you bite that bullet. Because most people are not going to say that it's a moral failure of people that are born into poverty that continue to live out cyclical poverty. Let me explain to you.
For somebody like me, I came from the single mother system. My mother was a single mother. We had, my parents got a divorce twice. They married each other. They divorced. They remarried each other, divorced again. I came up, we didn't have a lot of choices. I joined the Army, I got at that system, kind of wanted to see what I was gonna do for myself. Do I stay in the Army? Do I get out of the Army? I started working in sales. And then the incentive of working harder, eventually I built a good life for myself.
Again, you're totally dismissing the hard work that a lot of these people are putting into for just basic survival. I'd say that mechanics and plumbers and most people working blue collar jobs that are probably watching this video are working tirelessly day after day.
I don't disagree.
They still feel insecure positions to where they don't even know if they're gonna be able to afford rent in the next 6 months.
So let me ask you.
If most Americans have a $400 to $500 emergency, they can't even afford that with the basic savings that they have. So this is not something that we should celebrate as promises of a system that gives you more if you work harder. We should say that this is something that rewards few, and I'm glad that you're an outlier that's been able to build a lot of success for yourself. I know that you're a multimillionaire. That's fantastic that you have those resources. But the thing is that cannot happen for everybody in society. It's possible for each individual to do it, but not everybody can be a millionaire. That's guaranteed.
I don't think not everybody can be a billionaire or a millionaire, but I do think people can find ways to use their time to effectively increase their market value. And I don't think many people do that. When I talk to people and they tell me, I've watched this show, I've watched every one of these shows, I've watched every one of these Netflix shows, you can use that time to increase your market value instead of kind of, focus on what's going on with the stories and shows that are out there.
Let's move away from Netflix and TV shows and talk specifically about, do you think that capitalism is a system of merit that rewards people that are of higher merit?
I do.
Okay, so how would you say that this is a meritocracy when we have some people that are born into excessive wealth and some people that are working minimum wage jobs to provide for 3 or 4 kids? How would you say that that's a meritocratic society?
Those are 2 different things.
They are 2 different things, very unequal things.
Well, no, not necessarily. The parents get credit for making responsible decisions so they can take care of their kids. The parents get credit.
So it's not a meritocracy, though. We're building dynasties of wealth.
Not necessarily. I didn't come from dynasties of wealth.
I know,
came from
you're an outlier. I get that. I get that individual. But we're talking about systems. Capitalism is a system. It's not an individual testimony.
But it's a system that you get to use in your advantage. It's a system that's produced the best results than any other economical system. There's not an economical system that's produced better results than this based on the incentive.
History is a march of progress, right? So there are going to be advancements that we make, or there's going to be solutions that we make to previous ailments. I'm not saying that capitalism hasn't brought in better things than systems like feudalism or monarchy, but that does not mean that we're at the end of history. Do you think that capitalism is the final solution, and this is what we're going to last
I think capitalism
as we go
is the
into
best
future?
economical system because it gives an incentive for you to decide how big of a life you want to build. And by the way, the best way to judge it, let me just say this to you, the best way to judge it is in a very simple way. Take all the countries around the world. There's many different economical systems. What has the longest line of people wanting to get in there? It's America. Why is that? 15 million people came here illegally. Millions came here illegally just the last 4 years.
But a lot of that is because of
Why do they
economic
choose to
scarcity
come
in other
here?
countries. Well, one of them, we could talk about one, is American exceptionalism, which is continuing. Good to meet you.
Thank you. How are you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Alana. It's nice to meet you. Okay, so I think the issue is the framing of incentive here. Incentive doesn't disappear in a socialist or a communist society. It just changes and evolves. So we see in capitalism, the incentive is obviously monetary gain, maybe even collecting capital itself through land ownership. In a communist or a socialist country, you would see incentive would just evolve into, I know it's a vague term, but the common good. You have an incentive to do your chores around your house because you don't want to live in a filthy house, right? That makes sense. It doesn't have to be just monetary.
So you don't think monetary incentive drives people, or you're saying that people should be excited to do their job, whether they're getting incentivized for it or not? That's what you're saying.
People will be incentivized to do.
Give me a case study. Give me a case study of that worked. Give me one case study.
We don't even need to look at case studies. We can just look at charity work.
Well, why don't we actually look at a case study? You got two countries, North Korea, South Korea. One is communism and one is capitalism.
Yes.
North Korea's GDP last year was $23 billion.
Are we judging countries' values based off GDP
that's
and not
because
what
that's
they
a
value
job,
for
freedom of speech. You can't,
humans
like, if you lived in North Korea, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right now. You wouldn't have a voice. In South Korea, I'm gonna give you stats. In South Korea, their GDP is $1.7 trillion.
South Korea is also owned by like 5 companies
times,
in total in the entire
70
country.
times better
you
than
think
North
that's something
Korea.
to buy? If you are employed by the top 5 countries, you are practically unemployed in these countries.
Do you like to be free?
I'm not going to be free in a country like South Korea where I'm only employed in 5 companies or no job. Do you like to be free to call
somebody out like me? Do you like to be free where you can have a strong opinion? Do you like to be free to have your dreams?
I like to be free, but that's why I'm anti-capitalist.
Well, maybe you ought
that
to move
is
to
why
North
I'm
Korea
anti-capitalist,
or
because
Cuba or
capitalism
Venezuela.
removes that choice. There is no real incentive of capitalism because the incentive is survival. When you get into communism, the incentive is for the common good.
I love that. I got an offer for you before we move on. If I were to give you your $2,350, which is the cost to renunciate your citizenship, and I paid you your first class, flight to whatever communist country, and $20,000 of spending money.
Name me a communist country.
Would you give up your citizenship
Name
to go
me
to
a
that
communist country and I'll
Whichever
move out there.
communist country you want to go to.
Yeah,
Cuba, we can
that's
give
not
you
a communist
Venezuela,
country.
we give you North Korea, any one of those you want to go
Those
to.
aren't communist countries. Not
Choose any one of them. I'll give you a one-way ticket, and I'll fund it for you if you want to.
That's it.
Thank you. Yes. What's your name?
My name's Hunter. I'm going to be honest, I've never seen your videos before. Even though there is some real value to free enterprise, the profit motive often creates a perverse incentive and worse outcomes in certain situations. For example, healthcare. How much would you pay for a life-saving treatment for yourself or one of your family members?
How much would I pay for it?
Say you have cancer and you have an 80% survival rate with chemotherapy and less than a 10% without it. How much would you pay? Whatever it takes, right?
Sure.
That's a situation of inelastic demand, when the amount that you're willing to pay is not based on the value of the service, because your life does not have a finite value. In the US, 66.5% of all bankruptcies are because of medical debt. In most other developed nations, that number is way lower, if not zero. And at the same time, the US does not have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. We pay over $13,000 per capita. Meanwhile, Taiwan, which by most metrics has the best healthcare system and a national healthcare service, only pays about $2,500 per capita per year.
So what does that tell you?
That tells
you what?
us-
That's wasted expenditure.
Yes, that is a
So
massively wasted expenditure.
That tells you the government doesn't know how to spend our money.
No,
They keep
in our
raising
case,
taxes, we
we're
keep
spending-
more money, and they don't know how to spend the money.
No, most of that money is coming from private insurance. In fact, 77% of the people who went bankrupt from medical debt had insurance and then lost it because they couldn't pay.
So we can address that, the fact that 60-something% of bankruptcies are due to health, which is your right. We've done many content on that piece. I want you to come back to incentive. Address the issue with incentive right now, with capitalism.
The reason why the medical debt is so high in that is because of the profit motive. If people will pay whatever it takes
profit
to not
motive-
die, the profit motive in that case is perverse because healthcare shouldn't be a market in the same way that other things might be a market.
So you don't think the motive to have profit, to come out with a solution, is a good thing for the marketplace, specifically
I think
in the
it
healthcare
depends
side?
on which market you're talking about. It's way different. We're talking about video games or cell phones or TVs or other goods that aren't as necessary as
You're
healthcare
specific to
treatments.
healthcare.
Yes, I'm talking
Okay.
specifically about
So
healthcare
there's
and certain other markets
You
where
ever
there's
heard
a
of Home
natural.
Depot? You ever heard of Home Depot?
Yes, I'm aware.
So one of the guys who's the founders of Home Depot, investors of Home Depot, his name
Sure.
is Ken Langone. His father died at 62 years old. Ken Langone today is roughly 90 years old, give or take. When he died at 62 years old, he tells the story that if there was a simple thing as blood thinners, his father would have lived to be 90 years old just like he is today.
Yes, that makes sense.
came because of innovation, which he's been on for many years. My dad's been on blood thinners
Sure,
for the
but
last 40 years. So
I think
the
you're
incentive to create
conflating
a solution,
two things right now. Not
No, it's
all
about
innovation
incentive. It's
is
about
the result
incentive.
of the market, because many healthcare
Most is,
developments
though.
are created by research
Major-
grants from healthcare funding, whether it's in the United States or in
over
other countries. In
two-thirds-
most other first world countries,
Yeah.
the result of medical research developments, which are massively outpacing that in the U.S. now because of our inefficiency, because we have a market-based system for healthcare.
A very basic
most
question
of that
for you.
is because
a very basic
of
question for
non-market-based
you.
systems.
Basic question for you. If that's the case, it keeps going back to the same thing. If it's better in other places than it is here, why are Americans and others not going there? Why are people coming here? It's very basic.
How much does a plane ticket cost?
No, they have the money to go to different places. They don't, because they know America's the greatest country in the world. They know it.
Okay.
Appreciate
Nice
you.
to meet you, by the way.
Hey, I'm Luke.
Luke?
Yes,
Like the
Luke.
hat. Good to meet you.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to meet you too. So, I think incentives are exactly the fundamental problem with capitalism. Is that you say incentives are what make it work, and I think that's the whole issue. Is that the primary incentives are either greed, amass as much personal wealth as you possibly can.
You think that's the problem? It's greed?
Yeah, exactly. And
Because you're not greedy at all.
And like you said, survival.
Yeah.
Right. So the person working 5 jobs, that they're doing that to they
Sure.
wouldn't want to do that if they didn't need to survive. But that's such a horrible dystopian world to live in. If someone has to work 5 jobs just to survive,
How did they get there? How much of that is on their decision making? How much of that is on their doing? How much of that is on the market where they're not finding ways to improve themselves?
it doesn't matter how much onus is on the individual. We want to create a world.
Of course it is.
No. See, we want to create a
onus
world
is on
in
you.
which people don't have to earn their right to
And
exist, to live.
we live in a country where majority of the world wants to come here. The most important citizenship country is America.
Right.
People give up their lives to come here. Have you ever lived in another country before?
No, not lived. No.
Why do you think so many want to come here?
I think the people coming here are coming from gang-ridden, corruption-ridden, violence-ridden.
You think that's just all it is? You think I came from a gang-ridden in Iran? I lived there 11 years.
I think the majority of certainly coming from South
Most
America.
people come here because what you're doing to me, you're sitting across from me right now.
Right.
Millions of people are going to watch this. In America, you can call me out. You can say whatever you want.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen.
Right.
You're free and safe here, right?
Sure.
You
Freedom
can't-
of speech has
You
nothing to do
can't
with
do that in
capitalism,
Iran.
though.
Of course it is. There's a lot of elements with America. You're talking incentive. The amount of benefits America offers against
Right.
other countries, it's so much higher. Where somebody with big dreams, incentives,
Right.
they're willing to come and say, I want to come to America, please let me in. And
Right.
some come and take advantage of it. But to say the individual that's working 3 to 5 jobs, if you do that for a season, if you do that for 2 years, if you do that for 5 years, fine. If you do that for 20, 30 years, you're doing something wrong.
But the point is, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Those are the inalienable rights. We shouldn't have to earn those rights. We shouldn't have to earn the right to
You
health
do
care.
have to earn it.
Earn the right. No.
I
because
actually-
this is just, we just want to live,
I-
just
I-
exist.
I-
We can't work our blood, sweat, and tears just to survive. That's
Yeah.
a horrible dystopian world that we live in right now.
No, then what do you think we're here for? To just sit around and play video games?
We're
What do you
here-
think we're here for? To
we're-
sit around and watch TV shows?
We're here
to sit and watch cat
we're
videos?
here- we
what
are
do you think we're put here
we
to
are
do?
here to create a prosperous community to lift
How do you
everyone
create a
up.
prosperous community? How do you create a prosperous community? Matter of fact, for you, how have you positively impacted a community?
I guess volunteering, food banks,
Volunteering
Habitat for
food. I
Humanity.
appreciate you for doing that. Have you created jobs for others?
Created jobs? No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say
Why
so.
have you not?
I haven't had the ability to do so.
Do you think it's easy or do you think it's hard?
To create jobs is probably hard, yeah.
It's okay, so the people that create jobs, you think they should have a little bit of incentive for having risked their life savings, spend time away their families to create jobs so somebody like you can work for that company?
Sure, but that
is
does not,
the incentive.
And bravo for them, but that does not give them the right to pay themselves $2 million bonuses while their workers are scraping by at like $10 an hour.
You don't get to choose how much money I choose to make. That's not your business. That's my business. If you have 4 girlfriends and I have 1, is it my business to tell you can't have 4 girlfriends?
I think
if you play 7 hours of Fortnite every day,
right,
and I don't play Fortnite at all, should I tell you you shouldn't be able to play 7 hours of Fortnite a day?
In my view.
Hey, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
How are you? What's your name?
Zena.
Zena.
Awesome. So this claim about incentive is one that we see often promoted by capitalism enjoyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea that profit incentives is the only thing that can make humans do things, get up out of bed every day, which has never been the case historically. It's not the case psychologically.
Historically, it's never been the case?
No.
What has been the case?
So we've seen.
What's been the incentive?
The incentive is intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation?
Of course. Have you ever heard of intrinsic motivation?
Of course I have. So you
Okay.
think people are going to go just do anything for no incentives?
The incentive is intrinsic, meaning passion, interest, and honing your skills.
Whether you get paid or not.
Well, the problem is that we're forcing people to, need to, work to survive.
So
in a
what's
system.
the alternative? So give me another solution, another
May I
economical
finish
system.
the talking
Yeah,
point?
actually,
Right,
I'm
awesome.
curious.
So yeah, the psychological theory of self-determination is widely accepted in psychology. It basically explains that intrinsic motivation and passion is actually what predicts incentive. You're arguing that incentive is integral to profit-driven motivation. That's not true. Extrinsic motivation, at all times, at every single case, is going to predict less creativity, less motivation, less skill, etc. Intrinsic motivation is what causes things like technological development. Some of the greatest breakthroughs have been from people who are devoted in honing their skill.
So should they get paid for it?
I think that we shouldn't live in a system that privately owns the means of production and forces people in this position.
What college did you go to?
USC.
You went to USC. What did you major in?
Sociology.
Sociology. Who's your hero as a professor? Who's
Wow,
the
these are-
professor you look
This
up to?
doesn't seem like a topic
Do you know
that's
why I
related to
asked this
capitalism.
question? The reason why I asked this question is because somebody convinced you of that.
I don't think
Somebody
it's a-
convinced you that is
So
the
psychology
way that
and studies
produces-
convinced me of this fact
Yeah,
about
but,
the human
but
mind.
unfortunately, to your claim, results show that the greatest
Results
economical
show that
system
intrinsic
is
motivation predicts more
capitalism
creativity
that allows
and more
people to go
profit
above and
than
beyond
anything
and
like
solve
extrinsic
every
motivation.
single issue out there. An entrepreneur who gets up, who says,
What was your
"I'm
claim
gonna
again,
be-
mister?
I'm going to incentive.
Incentive.
The entrepreneur
What about
who has
incentive?
an incentive to go out there and build their lives, and you put
So
no
I'm saying that
monetary
this incentive that you're talking about,
Yeah.
what predicts the best incentive, the best drive, and the best
So
creativity
what do you think about
has
Elon
been proven
Musk?
by
What do you
psychology.
think about Elon Musk?
Can we respond to my claim?
This is about incentive.
All right,
though.
awesome. So you're arguing that incentive is intrinsic and tied to extrinsic motivation. What we find is that the best incentive comes from intrinsic motivation.
So a person that's passionate about solving an issue is going to build something bigger than somebody else that's not.
Yeah, so someone who has a true passion for this.
Yeah, so
Exactly. So profit motivation is not the thing that's driving innovation,
Of
right?
course it is.
Psychology.
Of course
So
it is.
psychology proves
There-
that that's
if-
not the
if
case.
there's not-
that
if
profit's
there's-
not the
if
reason that we
there's
have
not-
the greatest inventions that we do today.
I don't know if I disagree with the fact that there's a passion behind it. Are you saying people with passion, even if there wasn't the incentive to make as much money as they would make, people would still
That's
pursue
exactly
it
what-
even with or
that's-
without money?
that's what psychology
Well,
says.
your claims are wrong because
not true.
Whoever your psychology professor is,
It's
if
not-
you look at data and you find out how America, that's only been around for 249 years, schooled all the other countries that have been around for hundreds,
Yeah,
if not
I'll tell you
thousands
how.
of years
They
more,
schooled all-
they did better
they
than
s-
others because the incentive
because they
was
accumulated
free market
profit,
capitalism.
right, to
That's
a
why.
1% of the population
Not
and
necessarily.
continue to produce
Nope,
on that
not
basis.
necessarily. It's
right? We
not-
have this. Okay.
It's
so
not necessarily.
Do we want to?
When-
respond because you can say that?
You've been
but the
interrupting the entire time. So
Right.
if you're saying about the 1% are the problem and they're the only ones that make money,
That's
a lot
not
of
what I
people
said.
make money. You said the profit goes to the 1%.
I'm explaining how it is that America has become the dominant power that it is now, right? What we see is that because we have this engine, right, this desire to accumulate profit, we morally justify things like going to other countries, imperializing them, colonizing them, and extracting their resources, right, to funnel our country, right? Social democracies in the Nordic countries don't do this. So yeah, they might not be the wealthiest power, but they have higher rates of education, literacy, human satisfaction, etc. Right? So it depends on what we actually value in a society. Do we value well-being or do we value profit accumulation?
Validates your point. If that's the case, people would move to those states. They don't. When you judge a great restaurant by the amount of people that come in, you can say the food sucks here.
Yeah,
you
so
can say the
there were
service
millions
sucks
of people
here.
that lived
but
in Germany.
everybody's lined up to want to come here. They're not lined up to go into
so
those
there are
countries.
there are
They're
millions-
just used by professors as theories.
There were millions of people that also lived in Germany in the 1920s.
I lived in Germany before as well, for 2 years.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Straight Arrow News helps you quickly find trusted information you need to understand the news, allowing you to dive deep into the topics that matter to you and the world around you. Their work is trying to break the bias bubble, helping you understand how every side of the political spectrum is reporting on a story so you get a full picture of the news. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. They deliver the facts, unbiased, balanced, and designed to make sense of a complex world, getting you the clarity you deserve and news you can trust. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel. You also take advantage of a better way to get the news. Welcome back to Trustworthy Journalism. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
My next claim is capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system.
Patrick.
How are you?
I'm Gabby.
Gabby?
Yeah,
Good
nice
to meet you.
So I would argue that governments have actually lifted the most people out of poverty. If you look historically, we look at China, for instance, had the most significant poverty reduction in all of human history. They pulled 800 million people out of poverty using state-owned enterprises and state centralized planning. They did work with the capitalist system, but they did it, most of it was done through state-funded infrastructure, education, and contributing to strong literacy programs, redistributing the wealth. I think that my other argument would be that there hasn't been an opportunity for alternative systems like socialism to pull enough people out of poverty. So we look at examples.
There hasn't been?
There hasn't been enough opportunities for them to succeed. And so when
Why
we
do you
say,
think that is?
I think that is partly because of the US, and I think because capitalist forces and global market insecurities have sabotaged these attempts to do socialism. So we look at an example in Chile in the 1960s, they elected a democratic socialist, and he proposed literacy reform, wealth redistribution, land reform, and all of that was a threat, obviously, to the United States because McCarthyism was on the rise at the time. And so instead of allowing Allende to have a chance with that, the U.S. Orchestrated a CIA-backed coup to take over and to have a military dictatorship that led the country instead of Allende, who actually was having a lot of success in reducing the poverty rates before the U.S. interfered. And so I think we look at other parts of Latin America, like Venezuela, for instance, and we see the same thing. We see that the U.S. has interfered several times. You know, with Chavez in Venezuela, he was able to reduce the poverty reduction in half in the first decade of him being in office, and he was sabotaged ultimately by the U.S. and by a military dictatorship, so that the people that replaced them were actually
So may I respond?
capitalists.
It's
Sure.
a lot of different cases here. So
Sure.
thank you for that.
Of
So
course.
let's go China first. Okay, so when you say China was able to recover and because they use state-funded, nationalized systems. So in 1978, Xiaoping, the leader of China, went to Japan. He saw what was going on with Japan for 2 decades. Every year, their GDP was growing by 15%. The economy was doubling pretty much every 4 years.
Sure.
They go over there, they say, we got to find a way to compete with Japan. How do they have fewer people, but they're beating us? They sit down with their leaders after a few drinks. Eventually, they say, how did you fix your economy to be growing the way that it is? A capitalistic society that they had in Japan. They asked the question from Xiaoping, the Prime Minister Fukuda, asked the question, how many banks do you guys have in China? He says, we have 1 bank. He said, it's a nationalized bank? He says, yeah. That's it? Yeah. How many loan officers do you have? Not many. You want to compete with 1 bank? Yes. He says, if you want to compete with us or others, here's what you have to do. You need 5,000 banks with 35 branches, with 30 loan officers. That's a total of 5.25 million loan officers and a population of 600 million people that are living there. You do that every week. You take 10 applications with these loan officers for small business owners, and you allow the small business owner to compete. They did that. China started competing. By the way, in America in the 1920s, we had around 30,000 banks when we were really, competing in a marketplace. In the 80s, we ended up having around 14,000. Today, we only have 4,100 banks in America. That concept of allowing just one bank to compete, it's not going to work. China takes on the idea from Japan.
If I
they
can
start
interrupt
growing.
you, I mean, I think that
they start growing with certain capitalistic
I think you're
philosophies.
thinking about this in very capitalist terms, which makes sense. You're a capitalist, but
Because it works. That's the idea. Because it's produced the
You're only thinking about
results.
these scenarios in a situation where market mechanisms are in place, and this is the problem that I have with so many capitalists: is they can't exit their worldview and try to see a world where socialism could be in place because they don't understand the untapped potential of socialism. And I'm a democratic socialist. I think that we need to build forward towards that with reforms, and I think we need to work with the government. I don't think that we should abandon the state. I also don't think that we should give state elites the complete control over society. I do think that we should work with the state to instill these reforms and then eventually erode capitalism.
But unfortunately, socialism has had hundreds of
But
years
you're thinking in terms of
to produce
competition.
results, and it hasn't worked. Do you know why it doesn't work, though?
It's been sabotaged.
It's been sabotaged, or it's because it forces people to do something they don't want to do?
Does capitalism not do the same?
No, capitalism gives
there's
you the-
7 million people in this
capitalism
country
allows
who
you
have to
to
work
choose.
multiple jobs just to get
I
by.
have to work multiple jobs
They're
for a season.
forced to do
Yeah.
that because either they do that or they starve. So if the options are to work or to starve, that's
they-
not
but
freedom,
they-
that's economic
if you,
coercion.
If you do, respectfully, if you do that for a period of your life, I understand it. If you're doing that for 30 years, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be working multiple jobs for the rest of your life.
So, first of all, I'm not going to argue with this moral argument. I think that people who live in poverty, especially when we look at how many people live in poverty in this country, and also it depends on how you define the poverty line, but there's 40 million Americans who live below the poverty line in this country. There's 3 guys in this country that own 40% of the wealth. How does that work in a country that is
You really
built
want to go
on-
there? You want
Sure.
to go there? Okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about it. So when we talk about the rich people at the top,
Yeah.
okay, and you say, well, the rich don't pay enough taxes. Do you know what the bottom 50% of taxpayers in America pay towards the revenue that the government gets in taxes? Do you know what the bottom 50% pays?
Tell me.
2% of taxes. Do you know what the top 1% pays?
There's been several years
Do you know
that
what the
they've
top
paid
1%?
nothing.
Do you know
They've
what,
paid nothing
no,
in
no,
their
hang on a
federal
second.
taxes.
This is from the IRS. I'm not writing a blog from Huffington
Sure.
Post. This is not Daily Beast. I'm telling you the
Well,
story. The top
I'll say
1%
this.
pays 42%
I'll say this: the
of
top
all
1%
tax
is
revenue.
about to pay a lot less in taxes because of the provision
They'll
that just went
actually
into
end up paying
Trump's,
even
your
more
guys'
revenue to the
big
government.
beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was fast.
I'm Anne.
Anne, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So I do want to address part of the claim about poverty, but I also want to address what you brought up about like paying taxes. You said the top 1% pays a large amount of taxes. The problem is that the bottom 2 quintiles can't pay taxes because they quite literally have no wealth. Do you understand that? Like the bottom quintile of the United States doesn't have any wealth. In fact, they're in debt, so they have literally like negative wealth.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think that's because workers have been exploited. I think that they haven't had the opportunity to gain social mobility
Why do you think that is?
because of exploitation.
You think they're being exploited?
Yes, of
Oh,
course.
so people are being forced to work at companies. They don't have a choice.
I didn't say that they were.
So people
well,
are being-
if they are they are being forced. If the other option is starve or die.
What job do you have right now? What do you do for a living?
I do work from home stuff. I don't want
Okay,
to disclose
so
that.
so you chose to do that, right? That's your choice. Great. If somebody works at Starbucks as a barista, it's their choice. If somebody has a job that they're working, it's their choice. If somebody is not utilizing their time properly and accordingly, of course the market's
Choice
not going to
how?
pay you
Do you
more.
think that, like, they brought up single mothers earlier. Do you think that single mothers are sitting around playing Fortnite 15 hours a day?
Unfortunately, single mothers were manipulated on what happened.
Is that a
in-
yes or no?
Single mothers were manipulated by what Lyndon Johnson came out where they changed the benefits on giving single mothers the incentive to have kids on all the welfare program. That changed our system in a major way. The feminist movement got single mothers to believe they don't need men and they're going to do everything by themselves and they don't need a man to help them out. This division that's happened between us caused many people to be in the situation that they're
most
at.
households are 50-50. They're closer to 50-50
not
today, so that
necessar-
has nothing to
no,
do with
not-
feminism.
not
Feminism
necessarily.
didn't just like convince women because they're too stupid to think for
Feminism
themselves.
was one of the worst things that happened in America because it pinned men
Wait,
against women.
Do you think that women are so stupid that they've been
No, I don't.
brainwashed?
I-
Okay, so you don't think that they've just fallen into this feminist propaganda? You don't think
No.
they're idiots?
No, I don't
You
think that. But I do think people can be manipulated
but they're
and
not
brainwashed.
stupid enough to do that because the majority
There
of
are
people are
so
splitting
many, there are so
nearly
many
towards
people that bought
50-50.
into a philosophy that stole decades away from their lives, decades away from their lives, because they
what is
bought
this?
into an idea that didn't produce the results.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about capitalism
okay,
is the
well-
best economical system
Okay,
that
wait.
provides the best results for people.
But we can't just jump back and forth between claim to claim to claim. So the claim about feminism brainwashing people into being single mothers, how
No,
does
no,
that
I
work?
didn't say. I said feminists originally brainwashed women to believe men are the enemy. That led to where we are today.
That
Last
has
week
led them to
report
being
came
single
in.
mothers?
Yes, in many cases because they don't need men.
Do you have evidence for that? You really think a
100%.
single mother wants to be a single mother?
Absolutely, we have evidence of
You think
that.
the single mother
The-
making minimum wage down the road, like
you-
working for some
you-
grocery
due
store,
to the
having to take care of all
due
of her
to the
children,
amount of
is just like,
entitlement
I just
pro-
don't need a man.
What
I just
per-
want to be
what per-
independent.
what percentage-
I'll live in abject poverty to
What
be
percentage
independent.
of the U.S. revenue that we get in you think we use for entitlement programs? What percentage?
I don't remember the exact
What do you think the
percentage.
number is? So we bring in
But it's far
$4.9
less
trillion.
than what we do in private spending.
We bring $4.9 trillion in, okay? The U.S. revenue comes in. What percentage do you think goes to entitlement programs?
I don't know. I
What
don't
do
know
you think is a
percentage.
reasonable number?
Well, what you're calling entitlement programs, I'm actually not sure what you mean by that.
I'm talking about Social Security. I'm talking
Okay,
about
so social
Section
welfare.
8. I'm talking about any of these.
It's much
What
less than other
percentage-
OECD countries.
What percentage do you think
I don't
it is?
remember the exact percentage, but
I
it's
want
much
you to
less than
guess.
other
What do you
OECD
think
countries.
it is? You think
we
it's
are
10%,
far behind.
20%, 30%? What do you think the number is?
No, but it's relatively low compared to
But
other
what
OECD
do you
countries.
think it is? Can you guess the
I
number?
don't remember the number off
It's
the top of my head. I've already said that.
68%. How much more entitlement?
68%. Can we fact check that?
You can fact check that.
Okay.
Please do so.
Please.
68% goes to entitlement
Of
programs.
our federal budget?
No, of the revenue that comes in, 68%.
So the capita GDP.
Not GDP. You're confusing the two different things here. Actual tax revenue that we get.
Okay, so tax revenue.
68%
Okay, now
of
that
it
we're
goes
specific.
towards entitlement programs. 68%. Thank you.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Grace?
Yes, Grace.
Good to meet
Hi.
you.
I want to say that I think it's pretty comical that an elite such as yourself has the goal to tell us average Americans who's in poverty and who's not. A lot of
I
times
was an average American.
You're
I
not
was a
anymore.
guy that was in poverty.
You're not anymore.
And you can also
you're
change.
Very,
You can also change.
Anyways,
Do you believe
you're
you can
talking down.
change?
A lot of times that the market for poverty is actually very low. So a lot of times, like $2 a day is the line for how they measure poverty.
$2.15, yeah.
And that's ridiculous. So if I make $5 a day,
Yeah.
I'm not in
But that's
poverty.
because
I
it's
can
around the world,
actually
not
live.
in
I can pay
America.
the rent.
Sure.
But we're talking about this country, right? We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about around the world. I've noticed that you like to do that. You like to skirt from America and talk about other
Yeah,
countries
actually, I've been
to try
saying
to
multiple
make it look like
times,
we're better, but we're
America's
actually
the
getting
greatest
worse.
country in the world.
Anyways, it's the greatest country.
Hands
We're at
down, it's not
we
even
are at the
close.
highest that we've ever been with homelessness since we started collecting
Why is
data.
that? Ask you. Are you from
Because
California?
we haven't had a
Are
pay
you
raise
from
since
California?
2009.
Do you live
Our
here?
minimum wage nationally
Yeah.
is $7.25.
Okay.
And you wonder why we have the highest poverty rate. You think that capitalism's winning? Can you survive? Would you like to live off $7.25
I
an
used to
hour?
work for $4.25 at Haagen-Dazs.
Right.
Then I
And that
went
was
and
a
worked
very
at
different time.
Burger King for $4.75.
And how much do you make
Then
now?
I make millions today. Then
Right,
I
and
worked
that's
at
why
Bob's
you like
Big Boy.
capitalism, because we're not
No,
all making
but
that.
The, but
and
the
that's
difference
my point.
is, but
a
the difference
millionaire is
between
critiquing the people in poverty
no, the
and
difference.
saying
My
you should
hope,
work harder. You should work. You know,
my
you
hope,
can be me.
My
we can't
hope,
all be it.
My hope is that you believe you can change and improve. That you believe you can upgrade yourself. That's my
It's
belief.
very, and you know what? That's what rich
but-
people like you want to keep telling us.
But
you
yeah,
can be
the
just like
difference-
me. Do you want to
yeah.
be like me? If you work hard enough,
I'm not
you can
saying
be like
that.
me.
I
It's
don't.
not
I
very
don't. It's
realistic.
actually you wouldn't be able to be like me because
You're
you wouldn't
talking
work that
down to
hard.
people like
Would you
us.
work that hard?
You don't.
Would you,
I'm not going to tell you. I don't have
would-
to answer
would
that.
you- if you
I
don't
don't
choose
have
to
measure my I don't have to measure my work ethic to be worthy.
You don't have to. Then you can't be upset for others who do so. You
I
can't
can't
be upset
for people who
no,
are struggling.
because they work
and that's
harder
what's wrong
than
with
you.
capitalism. Because
But
you
go back
think
to the
that
homelessness.
You have to work so hard.
Do you live in the state of California?
I do.
Okay, you said homelessness.
Yes.
What do you think about your Governor Newsom? What do you think about him?
I don't like him. I'm a
Okay.
progressive. He doesn't do enough for the people.
Do you know when he was
he takes corporate money.
fantastic?
He takes money from people like
when
you.
he was,
he's not
I've
for the
never given
people.
him money. But do you know when he first
Oh,
became
that's
a
not a
governor?
surprise, but a
I
lot of
would
people
never
like
give
you
him
have.
money. But when he
Who have you
became a
given
governor
money?
first, from then till today, he's raised the amount of homelessness in this state by 36,000 people.
Okay, you know, I don't
he
like the
was
guy, but
given
he's not at fault for
24
homelessness.
billion
People like you are. Billionaires like you are the
gave
problem.
him 24 billion. Taxpayers
I believe it. I
gave
don't
him
like that guy.
$24 billion, and he didn't do nothing with it. And
Vote
it
him
increased.
out. Vote him out.
You
He's
vote
just
him
like
out. You have him. It's not that.
That's what I'm
it's,
saying. I'm
but
not
no,
here
I
to
would tell
defend
you.
Newsom.
You can
but
go.
you're not much different than him. That's all I'm saying. You're in the same class.
But
you're
you're sitting here blaming a person who's changed their lives for the better, and it's their fault. My dad was.
This is not the United
my
States
dad,
of Patrick Bet
do,
David.
Do you know
this
where?
is the United States of America.
I know, and I'm
all
so
of our
grateful to
people.
be here. I'm
and you
so
say
grateful
that,
to
but
be
are you
here.
willing to pay more
I am
taxes
so
so that other people don't
grateful to be
suffer?
here.
Are you willing to pay more
I
taxes
am
so other
so
people don't
grateful
suffer?
to be here.
I see you're skirting the
my
question.
dad,
you're not willing.
My dad was a cashier in Inglewood at a 99-cent store.
That's
we
great.
had nothing. No, I don't tell you that's great. We had nothing.
Well, I know
I'm
where
the
this is
guy that had
going.
I'm the guy that had a
the propaganda that you
but
guys.
what
So
you
you can
don't
be like
but
me.
what you don't want to hear is
Under
that because it's the
capitalism,
truth.
we
Can I ask you a
cannot all be
question?
like you.
When's the last time you read a business book? When's the last time you read a self-help book?
I don't need to answer that. Oh,
When's the last time you read a self-help?
I wrote a self-help book.
Tell me
I'm a
what-
writer. I'm a creative.
Tell me what
and I
self-help
also,
book you read.
I'm not.
Give
I
me
don't
one.
need to.
Give me one you read. Are you willing to take one recommendation?
No.
You're not.
Not for
Then
me.
I can't help you.
That's okay. I don't need your help. I didn't
Then-
come here
then
for your
great.
help. I
You've
came
been
here to
flagged
debate
out.
you. Good.
Awesome.
How's it going, man?
What's your name?
Armin.
Armin?
Yep, Armin Crow. When you said capitalism is the best form of economic organization the world has ever seen, it made me think of a very particular picture from history. So I don't know if you know this, it's a little history lesson. In 1900, King Leopold II of Belgium determined that the entire land of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was his personal property. And within 10 years, capitalists came out, they exploited all the land, extracted trillions of dollars of resources. 15 million Congolese died. For reference, the Holocaust killed 6 million people. And the most famous picture from that time in history is a rubber worker staring at the disembodied hands of his 8-year-old daughter because he didn't hit his rubber quota. I'm willing to bet that man worked harder to hit that rubber quota than anything you've ever worked for in your entire life. And I think when you say this is the best system that's ever been created, to me, that's the result. That's what happens when there's no rules.
It's devastating when you hear stories like that. I don't disagree with you. They had it hard. They worked very hard, and they had risk on the line. Many times it was their lives that was on the line. And you see that in many different places when you go back and study history. That's why today in America, that can't happen. In America, you have a choice to do what you want to do with your life. When we go back and look at those stories, we can go to see what communism did. How many lives were killed because of communism control? You don't need to go through that number. You hear the numbers between 60 to 100 million. We can go that route. But if you're talking about which provided the best economical system today, you judge it by how many want to go live somewhere that gives you that opportunity, and that is America.
Do you know why kids can't work in America?
Why kids can't work in America?
Why there's child labor laws.
Yeah, because of child labor laws.
It was labor unions. They were getting shot at by police officers to fight for the weekend, to fight for the 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
Another good example is the 1908 mill children's strike. It was thousands of kids who were working 80-hour work weeks striking so they would only have to work 50 a week. That's what happens when there's no rules, right? And then the government had to come in and say, you can't employ children. So I think capitalism
We don't
itself,
disagree here with that. I don't think we're sitting here talking about child labor.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me talking about capitalism is the best system because it provides child labor in America?
I'm
No.
saying that capitalism, there's no guardrails inherently. The government has to come in. People have to go and organize. And I think what you've seen for the past 50 years under neoliberal politics is that's slowly being chipped away. All of the good things of the New Deal, like Social Security, the 40-hour work week.
I do think you need law and order, but also at times, you know, the amount of rules you put in place can prevent incentives. Right now, if you think about drones, warfare is changing, okay? And 70 to 80% of all drones that are being built today are being built by a company called DJI in China. Ukraine was building 1,000 drones a day at $500 and going and hitting $5 million equipment of Russia, destroying them. 68% of their attacks was from drones. When you come to America, look at us. we're at 1 to 2% at the top. Let me explain my point to you here. Part of it is overregulation. Overregulation, FAA laws, this laws, that law. So 500 startups that got into the drone business, they walked away because it's overregulation. Many cases, when you say, I want to put this rule in place, great. Another person, no, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. It eventually gets to the point that it chokes the innovator, and that's also not good.
I would disagree. I think regulation is the reason why there's no lead in our gas. You were talking about incentives. The only incentive that really matters to a good capitalist is profit. It is profitable to put lead in the gas, and it doesn't matter if it lowers the IQs of kids living nearby by 15 points.
Unfortunately, someone's convinced you at a young age that these capitalists are bad people.
Well, then,
that they're
why
terrible
are they fighting
human
against?
beings.
Why are they fighting against taking lead out of their gas?
Think about it this way. You know, the main thing. I don't know if you know Michael Burry. You ever seen the movie Big Short?
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the movie where it says Michael Burry now is focused on water because he thinks water is the future gold or whatever he calls it, right?
Sure.
Okay. Go to the company that's Coca-Cola, that sells Coke, and how much criticism have you had over the years with Coke, right?
Oh, I think Nestle's had a lot of criticism because they don't think water is a human right for the...
That's a different conversation. If I may finish the point, one thing with Coca-Cola is the following. Do you know even Coke got to a point that they realized in order for Coca-Cola to be around 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they went and invested billions of dollars to fix the water issue around the world. They're trying to get cleaner water. Capitalists eventually get forced to take care of the person because having lead in the water is just not a good policy long term.
Okay.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen. Search Surrounded, plug in, and stay part of the conversation. Anywhere, anytime.
My next claim is if all the money in the world were divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years. What's your name?
Caleb.
Caleb?
Yeah, so you just said that you are proposing if we divided all the wealth equally in like 5 years. How would you propose we divide the wealth in that way? In this thought experiment, again, if we're going to give it a serious look, I want to understand, how would you propose that happen?
I hope you realize this is just a question we're asking everybody, right? But if you take all the wealth, which is around $500 trillion, okay, give or take, you divide it by 8 billion people, it would be around $62,500 each. Within 5 years, the people that don't know how to handle money themselves, they would lose it all. And within 5 years, the same wealthy would get the same amount of money.
As someone who certainly doesn't make that much money, I'm willing to take that as a gamble just for fun.
Right,
I'll be honest. But at the same time, like, okay, so you're just now claiming that people who don't have wealth don't know how to manage it. And that's fair because a lot of them have never had it before. So what do we do to basically ensure that people like myself who are currently, thank you to the United States, thank you to the state of California for giving me medical insurance to get blood work, for giving me food stamps so I can have food. I've applied to, I don't know how many hundreds of jobs. I can show you the receipts. I can show you the email confirmations. Like, I am trying my best to use my values with the freedom that we have
So if
here.
I gave you a job, you would work 40 hours a week?
If the job is in alignment with something that's noble and good, I think I could. The issue is, and again, you may say that this is a personal weakness, but like right now, substitute teaching, tutoring, trying to help in that way is making it so that I'm able to scratch by, but without the supplemental income and the help from the society of people who make more money,
But let's,
I'm going to not have enough
if I
food.
may, I want to address something which you made a point that I agree with. On why don't some people create wealth? In my family, when I was growing up, and I was telling this young lady over here, when my dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store, we've never owned an insurance policy before. My parents, we've never owned a house before. I've never lived in an apartment with a swimming pool before. We've never had a 401k stock, mutual fund, none of that stuff. I had no clue how money worked. So for me, when I got out of the Army with a 1.8 GPA, out of high school, I went straight to the Army because I didn't know how money works. If you look at our system today, in high school, we learn about a lot of different things. They don't teach us about taxes, finances, mutual funds, stocks, bonds. Colleges don't even teach a lot of that right now. So
Do you
come
work
out.
in a high school?
Did I work at a high school?
Have you have experience like me, someone who's essentially on those front lines working in?
I've worked with many high school teachers and the directors of psychology to talk to the youth. Yes,
So
I have.
right now, I'm in a position where I have options, like you said. I do have some options, but they seem to be somewhat destructive and exploitative of me, of my peers. So I'm trying to
I think you're too
discriminate.
selective for jobs right now. You don't have the ability to be selective at this stage.
Well, but the thing is, I do
wanna make
because I'm
some-
instilled with a freedom that is maybe God, universe given, and I don't actually have
Yeah.
to, because of the system, like you said, I don't have to play along with some corrupt game. So I gave up
I think
a
California is
career.
perfect for someone like you.
Well, thankfully,
Yeah, I think it
California
is.
agrees. But
Yep.
you mentioned earlier in a previous discussion that we have free speech and we can say what we want.
Right.
But the thing is, have you been punched on the train for how you look and how you share your ideas?
Do I look like an American to you? Do you see this nose?
No, I'm just asking,
I'm Middle
has-
Eastern. You know what's happened to this guy? You know what's happened to me when I was discriminated all over the place?
So do you really feel like that's free speech
no,
if you're being
but I don't mind
punished
it. I don't.
by people who have prejudice
I
against
don't
you?
mind it because I understand there is risk that you may be disrespected. They're like here, I've been disrespected here many times. I've been offended here many times. A lot of you are coming here finding a way to attack me and tell different stories. I'm okay with that.
I don't want to attack you.
You're being very respectful. I'm not talking about you. But what I'm saying to you is, when you say, have you ever been punched in the face on a bus? You don't want to hear about what things has happened to me because of the way I look.
Because I feel
but
like
I don't want to use
you've
that.
been through a lot of trauma
I don't
in your
wanna-
life,
but what I-
and now you're kind of clinging to things
I'm
that
not. What I don't want to
think
do
you
that.
are.
I have my son is sitting right here, my 13-year-old son, my 4-year. I have 4 kids. I bring them everywhere. I want them to see that it's okay. People going to disagree with you. You have to be comfortable with this.
All the time.
You are with 13-year-olds all the time?
Because of my job, because I'm a substitute teacher and a tutor. The thing is,
Got it.
you
I
can
got it.
imply
Yeah.
many different things,
Got
and
it.
that is your right. But what I'm saying is right now,
Yeah.
I care deeply about having a good experience. The incentive that I feel is for peace and prosperity.
I respect it.
And again, I'm using my freedom now, but the
I
issue is
respect
you're
it.
saying we have all these options, but whenever I tour
You
the
do,
globe,
but
I
you-
see franchises that have monopolized pretty much everywhere. So
Sure.
when you talk about options, it's really, there's these select few people who have this infrastructure that's really benefiting them more than others, and without some sort of conscious, spiritual, moral awakening, what can we do except for beg and appeal and amass?
Well, no, you can't be too selective. At
Well,
the
but
beginning,
again,
when I worked
I
at
don't like that
Haagen-Dazs,
word,
I couldn't be
can't,
too
because
selective
you're
for a
saying
job.
I can't whenever I can.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice.
Appreciate you for being respectful.
I'm glad y'all tripped over each other because I did too. How's it going? James.
What's your name? James.
So, one of the things that you have stated is that we have options. Okay? So, just to give you a little bit of my background, I come from a divorced family, and we lived below the poverty level from the time that I was born until now, frankly. So, I'm one of those people that you're talking about that isn't pulling themselves up by their bootstraps enough. Which, like, I didn't have boots to begin with, and, like, I don't know if you've ever had boots, but, like, legs are load-bearing
relate.
structures.
I relate.
And, like, you can't really pull up a boot when you're wearing it, you know? So, where exactly am I failing when I am working 80 hours a week? I am taking the only jobs that will hire me. I have put in 477 applications over the last 2.5 years. Not even gotten a call back once.
Why do you think?
You tell me. You're a job creator.
But I don't know your resume. You know your life better than I do. Why do you think you have not gotten a call back on 477?
Because
a lot
I
of
do
people
not
get
have a degree.
callbacks. Okay.
Because I do not have a degree.
I
Because
don't
I could
either.
not afford one.
Okay.
I live in an area where the physical job market is very limiting.
Where do you live?
I live in rural Texas.
Okay.
So in that, like in the town that I grew up in, for instance, there are 8 jobs. Period.
Does your family live there? Mom, dad, everybody's in that same city?
Everybody was at one point.
Okay.
Most of them are dead now.
Okay, sorry to hear.
It is what it is. It's poverty. You know, we're kind of used to that on this side.
Why do you feel like you're a victim? Why do you feel like you're a victim? Why do you feel like the way you speak, like, you know, you're the victim where all this happened to you?
Because I exist and things happen to
Well, why do you see
and
yourself
as
as a
such,
victim?
things happen, and that's why I say that they happen
You're
to
a
me.
good-looking guy. Why
Thanks.
do you think you're a victim? Why do you think you're somebody that's got into a situation because it's not fair what happened to me? Let me give you a couple options.
Sure.
Are you open to leaving the city you're in?
I've already left it.
So what city?
I've left multiple cities.
So if somebody else gave you a job in a different place, you'd be
100%.
willing to move there?
100%.
Okay. On your resume,
It says that.
What do you have on your resume? Skill set. What do you offer?
Transportation expertise, logistics expertise.
You consider yourself a hard worker.
I mean, I feel
You
like
said
80 hours a week.
That's a
something like
hard
that.
worker.
Sure.
How about we do this? How about I interview you and I give you a job? Would
Sure.
you move to Fort Lauderdale?
Ooh, man, that's Florida. Sure, why not?
Would you move to Fort Lauderdale?
Sure, why not?
How about you and I document this? After this, you come, I do an interview with you, and I give you a job. and let's see what you do 90 days later.
Okay, I'll look up your company and all that kind of stuff, and I'll see it.
But you
like,
see what just happened
regardless,
right there? But
Mike,
watch what you just did.
Sure.
You just said you applied to 477 companies who's not gone back to you.
Yeah.
A business owner who's hiring aggressively just made an offer to you. You said you're willing to move. Then you said, I'll look at it. You became selective.
I didn't
You
say I look at it.
contradicted
If you'd let me
yourself.
finish my sentence.
Go ahead. I want to hear it.
I would like to look into your company to
Yeah.
see exactly what you guys do.
You would like to.
Because I don't know what you guys do.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, I may be wasting my time going. If you guys are a finance company, if you guys are a bank or something like that, I don't have the certifications. I don't have the degrees. So even interviewing me would be a moot
What if I
point.
gave you a job, period, to work 80 hours a week? Would you take it? And I paid you a reasonable wage.
Are we talking a livable wage or a reasonable wage?
What do
and
you make
whose
right
version
now?
of reasonable are we
What do you
talking
make
about?
right
Your
now?
version of reasonable or my version of
But you
reasonable?
see, so now for me, what I'm noticing from you is
I need specifics?
No, not necessarily. No, most of the people I hired need specifics. The difference is I'm trying to hire them. In this instance, you're trying to get a job and you're being selective. It's going to work against you.
I mean, I'm not trying to get a job. Originally, I was
My
trying to
offer is
ask you
off
where
the
the
table.
moral felt.
My offer's off the table
Okay, that's
because
fine.
you're going to be difficult to work with.
Okay, sure. But my question was, where is my moral failing? Like, where is it that you are saying that I am not working hard enough and I am not doing
I just
enough?
experienced it right now because the way you just handled this situation.
Got it.
Here
So I should
was-
accept anything
No,
that somebody
it's not-
gives me
not
at first
all.
blush
No.
if it is a guaranteed thing.
No, not necessarily.
I agreed
but-
I agreed to do your interview. I agreed to be interviewed by
yeah,
you, and you
but-
agreed to consider me for hiring.
Yeah.
So therefore, I am taking that opportunity. I've chosen to. But because I am asking you for specifics, your immediate reaction is that, oh, well, you're trying to be picky. When I'm not. I'm asking.
specifics. You could have simply
I said I need to look up your company. That's all I
you could have
said.
said is, I'm willing to have the interview.
And I
Right,
did.
You would have had the interview.
And I did.
No, you said it depends.
I said,
don't
yeah,
know.
sure.
Let me look.
Yeah,
Let me do
sure.
all
I
this
would
other
look
stuff.
into your company. That's all I said.
I appreciate you. Thank you, James.
Hi.
What's your
I'm
name?
Faye.
Faye?
Yeah,
Good to
nice
meet
to
you.
meet you. So how would you define socialism? Because I think you're kind of misunderstanding what anti-capitalist ideals look like. I think we are just trying to advocate for basic rights for our people in this country and across the world, of course. But I don't think it's necessarily about equal wealth disparity around the world for most people that are anti-capitalist. I think it's more about just standard rights that are provided by the government.
Standard rights that are provided by the government.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
Go a little bit deeper. So for you, when the claim here is, if the money in the world were divided equally,
Yeah, so
it will
I
return
think-
to the same pockets within 5 years. Do you disagree?
yes.
Tell me why you disagree.
Yeah, so I disagree because I don't even think many people are trying to argue for that.
People are not trying
So
to
like,
argue
who are
for
you
that.
arguing in this
Yeah,
debate?
what I'm trying
There's
to
like
say.
a very select amount of people that are trying to argue for equal wealth disparity.
Yeah.
Most people are at least trying to at least advocate for wealth and at all for people that don't have access to healthcare right now, that don't have access to a good education right now, that don't have access to their basic needs like food.
Do you think our system right now allows people to stay in those situations long term?
They force them to stay in those situations long term.
Okay, so part of me actually agrees with you, but why do you think they force them to stay in those situations long term?
I think because they are trying to convince the working class that they don't have rights.
I actually don't think that's what it is, although that's fair to your point here. What's the chances that any of you here voted for Donald Trump in 2024? Exactly, right? What is the chances that all of you here can't stand the phrase MAGA, Donald Trump, any of that stuff? Is that a fair assessment? Fair, okay.
Yeah, so it's your
So
point.
think about it this way. So maybe you're right that the Democratic Party that's been earning your vote for a long time wants to keep you there because they'll
They
have
have
your vote
never
for the
earned
rest
my
of your
vote.
life.
They have never earned my
Who
vote.
did you vote for in 2024?
In 24, I voted for the socialist candidate.
Who was that?
Claudia de la Cruz, I believe.
Who did you vote for in 2020?
I was actually not able to vote. I was in a hospital.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
Sorry to hear.
because of results of capitalism.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so I didn't have access to proper health care or even access to a proper job that would sustain me as a disabled person.
Are you comfortable being specific on what happened?
I
You
guess
don't have to if
so.
you're not
I mean,
comfortable
I'm
with it.
also mentally ill, so that was something I had to deal with. But I'm mainly mentally ill because I am disabled in a capitalist country.
Tell me more about mentally ill. Who qualified you as somebody that's mentally ill?
Me and my doctor team.
Who convinced you that you're mentally ill?
Me and my doctor team.
What's the specific category? of mental illness? Is there one? You know why I asked this question? Let me explain to why I asked this question.
So I don't even like the psychological industry. I don't really stand for like Sigmund Freudian politics or anything like that. So if you're going to debate the ethics of psychology.
I'm not. Where I'm going with this is going back to the same thing with if the money were to divide it equally, it'll end up being worth out within 5 years. My trouble is, in many cases, somebody you and I look up to will say something to us that we choose to believe for the rest of our lives. Unfortunately, it could be something where you have ADHD, you're mentally ill, you're poor, you're this, you're that, and we get to choose to buy into that or not. And if you do...
So you're saying I'm not mentally ill or I'm not disabled?
saying you are or you're not. I would challenge it to go a little bit deeper to see if there's anything you can do about it.
So you're asking me about my health. You're asking me about my disability.
I'm not.
And my...
I will say we are in a market where, stay with me here, there is a market where there's profit to convince you to you have issues to take the medication because they're making money.
Yeah, but I
and
don't
I'm
have
not
access to the
supportive of that.
medication. I don't have access to even a result or a solution to my disability as someone with a connective tissue disorder. It's genetic.
Have you been able to go to different doctors and get yourself tested? And
Yeah.
See? You have?
Yes.
And in California?
Yes, but not
And who
enough.
paid
I can't
for it?
find a specialist.
You can't find a specialist?
I can't find a specialist
Is there
for who
anyone
I am.
in your life that's willing to pay for a specialist?
Well, they could they would if they had
Anybody
money,
in
but
your
yeah.
Would you be okay if I pay for a specialist for you to go see?
Yeah.
Would you take money from a capitalist to help you go see a specialist?
I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
I'm going to have you go see two. Where do you live in California?
Yeah.
I'm going to have you go see two specialists. But would you also be open to seeing somebody else I choose as a psychologist that may...
No.
You're not.
No.
So you simply...
choose as a psychologist. You're choosing who gets to determine what my mental health looks like. No.
Okay. Then I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah. So I think... All right. Thanks for talking.
Thank you so much. Yes. Anytime.
How you doing, man?
What's your name?
Seth.
Seth, good to meet you.
I think your claim kind of doesn't make any sense because it would not inherently be a capitalist society you're describing. Because I'm surprised nobody's really addressed this issue. We haven't even defined what socialism is. Capitalism is a system in which all businesses are funded by millionaires and billionaires, investor classes. If this society, everybody had the same amount of money, I don't really know how the money would be generated up and down. I don't know in this theoretical. It sounds more like an anarchist society, which would make more sense to me.
We're using this as a hypothetical.
Yeah, so
right? I want to make sure I qualify
My
that
point
we're
being,
not...
we haven't even described what capitalism is.
But stay on this point here because you came here. Let me go back to this one. If all the money in the world divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I disagree.
Tell me why you
because
disagree.
I believe in a system more akin to that kind of system. I think that a system with people with more wealth and equality.
But do you know why the wealth would go back to the same people and the same people at the bottom would be poor? Why do you think it would?
Well, it wouldn't go back to the same thing or places because I don't think that we have an inherent equal starting point in the beginning.
Yeah, but this is a starting point. What I'm saying to you is if we right now did a case study... That's what I'm saying, why it wouldn't go to the same places because we have never even tested some sort of free market. We've never seen any sort of system akin to that. A genuine free market, not one that's distorted by capitalists, by business owners. Capitalists generally protect their own class. That's why people rise to the top. Yes, I don't
absolutely.
know about that. I actually think it's a very competitive place to be.
No, there's not at all. People start at the very bottom. They have no shot to even...
Do you know why I make the claim of if all the money in the world were divided equally would return to the same pockets within 5 years?
I'm assuming that you think that because people work harder or something like that. But I would argue the people that work the hardest are the people that make the least amount of money. The people that work the least, live on their yachts, are the ones that are owning all these companies, never been inside the businesses that they own.
I don't know if I agree with that. I was just in Arkansas 3 days ago.
The richest people?
I was just in Arkansas a week ago, and I went to a city called Hot Springs, Arkansas. It was two friends from high school started a windows company, 250 employees.
Yeah.
The city loves them. They work their tails off.
I'm not really referring to small businesses.
But I'm talking about, but many big businesses started small. Walmart wasn't big day one. Walmart was small when it first got started.
Why are they still a monopoly? Because they exist off
They're
of...
not a monopoly. Amazon is taking a big share
they
away
own
from them.
Oligopoly, whatever. They own a large market share because their ability to use their money to lobby.
Do you know how many jobs they've created around the world? Walmart has?
I'm not even referring to
3 million
Walmart.
jobs worldwide.
The point being is capitalists distort the market so it's unfree. How could it be a free market if everybody in the market inherently wants to make it unfree because they want to rise to the top?
I'm watching
if
you.
Everybody has the incentive to maintain a free market, then that's something that...
So let me go back. The reason why I said if all the money in the world were divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years. To me, It's because of market value, what value you bring to the place, your contacts, your relationship, how hard you're working. All of those combined. Habits that you have in place, habits that you have in place, and also habits at the bottom. The habits at the bottom are not long-term thinking, it's short-term. When I didn't have any money and I was broke $49,000, if I had $500 to my name, we're driving on the freeway to go to Vegas to party for the weekend and come back. If I had a penny to my name, I'm having a blast. Until 25 years old, I changed my habits financially. Then things changed. But this point here that we're talking about with the wealth.
Some people are so far off from that point, they're so far in debt that small decisions would not alter.
It's not true.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not true.
You're just privileged and you've lived in a certain
You think
example.
I'm privileged.
I'm privileged. You're privileged to become a millionaire because of your hard work. That's amazing. That's the only person.
My mom ran out of money and went back to Iran. You're talking to a guy that would have done 20 years in the army. If one guy doesn't call me, if one guy would have called me to...
The army is the government funding you.
I understand that, and I joined the army because I had given up on life.
Social programs.
No, I had.
Absolutely.
I was not confident on what I could do, but I changed. So can you. Look at the way you're speaking to me.
You can change. You can work hard, but
do you know somebody like you? Do you know somebody like you that speaks this eloquently? If somebody gets a hold of you in real estate, insurance, finance, you can learn how to sell, and you can make some real good money. Somebody like you that I'm watching.
Not everybody's born with those abilities. You have to be,
brother.
Somebody who's white, tall, 6'4", whatever. They're
I'm
much
Middle
more
Eastern. I'm from Iran. Do you realize a lot of stuff that goes against me?
Okay, but many people have no choice to
physically alter. But that's an excuse language to be making. That's not a language.
If you never have the opportunity to compete because you're pre-designed.
I appreciate you being respectful. Truly, you need to know that. So, I'll be respectful to everybody.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you for being respectful. Right now, everybody that's here, me changing your mind, it's not a very high likelihood.
Sure.
Okay, the audience that's watching. 40% of them are going to agree with what you say, what you say, what you say, what you say, and they hate me. 40% of the audience is going to agree with me. 20% of the audience is in the middle saying, I don't know, man, what do you think I should do? Should I feel like a victim or should I not make excuses? Or what is that guy saying? Or should I do this? And should I sympathize? The 20% that's watching this, that has a fighting chance, I'm hoping they realize they can do something about their lives. We're not going to be able to solve 100% of people's problems, unfortunately.
I don't think people should keel over, but that doesn't mean most people have an equal competitive advantage to some.
I think everybody has a certain gift to offer.
Somebody like me is more privileged inherently.
I think everybody listening to her present, she could be a lawyer. Listening to her present, she's got fire in her belly. Everybody here's got a gift. Every single person here's got a gift. Whether they choose to use it in a way to help them advance in life, that's not my fault.
Not everybody
can
afford to increase their market value.
You can.
No,
you actually
not
can.
Everybody.
Well, we respectfully disagree.
I appreciate you.
Thank you again. Appreciate you.
Surrounded is currently casting passionate 55 and older Trump supporters who are ready to have a thoughtful conversation about politics, generational differences, and the current administration. If this is you, apply using the link in the description. Feel free to spread the word to your family members, relatives, or friends who might be interested.
My final claim is the U.S. is more socialist than capitalist today. If you hate the system, you're anti-socialist. You're back at it again.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it's super important here for all leftists alike, but for the audience in general to define what these terms are. And I think the best way to do it would be to look at the theorists, right? Over history, we've seen communism and socialism talked about by governments and by, I guess, programs, but we never actually read the actual theory. And what theorists all agree on is that socialism would be a transitionary state between capitalism and communism, where the means of production are specifically owned by workers, not privately. The idea that any country now is anywhere near socialist, let alone communist, would simply be ridiculous and just it wouldn't reflect theory whatsoever.
What is the definition of communism to you?
Stateless, moneyless classes society.
And you prefer that?
Yeah, so I think that we should be moving towards,
communism.
Yeah, stateless, moneyless classes society.
So you don't think a person like me should exist with the amount of wealth that I have?
Yeah, because I think that we're getting to this point where we're creating fake scarcity for people like you to accumulate the wealth that you have on the basis of private ownership. Okay,
so you're not capitalist. You're definitely not capitalist. You're not socialist. You want to go full communism.
So what do you think that looks like, though, is a thing, right? So what Marx actually wanted was for us to reach a point where we no longer have the scarcity of resources that has kind of predicted, history as it looks like now. It wouldn't happen now. It would happen as we automate. At this point in time, we can decommodify housing and food and education for around 5% of the government budget. That's 1/5, a little bit over 1/5 of what we spend on the military already. We don't, because we were living in the state where it almost seems utopian that things like food and shelter
How old were you the
can
first
be
time
free.
you thought you wanted to be a communist? How old were you the
Is
first time?
Is that a response
I'm
to
actually
any
really
of the
curious.
statistics?
No, because the statistics are against you.
The statistics-
It's never worked. There's so many Cubans that moved to Miami. They love their country. They hate the politics. In Russia, they even run away from communism because it didn't work. It killed so many people.
Because that almost like it wasn't communist.
It's almost
was there a state?
amateurish
Yes,
to
there
debate
was. Was there
a
class?
communistic
Yes, there
argument.
was. It's almost like you're not replying to any of the statistics that I've presented to you. I think that's the biggest problem.
You're a dictator telling me what
Dictators
dreams
would not
should
be allowed under communism.
Dictators end up, of course, running communism.
But they weren't.
If somebody's taxing 100%, what is a dictatorship?
So again, how much money do you think?
If I'm paying 100% in taxes, what is communism?
How much money do you think?
Dictatorship.
How much money do you think would it take to, I don't know, allow everyone food, shelter, water, and education in this country?
How much money would it take?
Yeah.
But going back to your question here with communism, stay on that point there with
Nothing
communism.
I say is responded
but
to.
I'm trying to find out from you here. You're saying communism is not dictatorship.
No.
Define dictatorship.
Yeah, so when one person or one small entity,
Right.
is able to, enforce its will on the people. When we have a
Beautiful.
private ownership,
Yep.
when we have a system based on private ownership,
Yeah.
that's what happens every
That's
single
dictatorship?
time. Yeah, so we
Dictatorship as private ownership?
Yeah, so private
So let me get this
private
straight. Under
ownership.
communism, under communism, doesn't Elon Musk exist?
Yeah, no.
No, so that's dictatorship. Thank you.
That's completely incorrect. Under capitalism, we don't have, the freedom for people
You
to.
do. You do.
Okay,
Of
so
course you do.
under capitalism, right?
Under
we don't see that
under
the commodification.
Would you consider China
We don't see
communism
the
right now?
commodification
Would you consider
of food,
China communism right now?
shelter, or water, or
Would you
education
consider China
when we
communism?
can with 5% of the budget? Why don't we see that?
Would you consider China communism?
Why
right
haven't
now?
you answered any of my questions?
Would you consider
Why
China?
haven't you responded to any of my statistics?
Would you consider China communism?
It's almost like we're
right
not having
now?
a conversation and you're
We
talking
are having a
at me and not
conversation
with
where
me.
you have an argument that's been proven that it's not worked.
It's almost
and
like I just
everybody
gave
is
you a definition
moving
of communism
away
for you
from
to
it.
critique, and you haven't been able
If
to.
it's such a great system, why are other
It
nations
hasn't happened
not?
yet because we've never been at a point for
That's
it to
right,
happen.
because we've not found a noble person
No, because
that can do it
if
the
we,
right
if
way.
we,
That's not a
if you were to read the
dictator.
plain text
Right.
of Marx, we would see
Right.
that he wanted
I've
us
read
to reach.
Communist Manifesto. I've gone
I
through
promise
it.
you, if you
have
have,
read
you wouldn't
Wealth
have
of
said
Nations?
that capitalism
Have you
today
read
is
Wealth of Nations?
socialist.
Have you read Wealth of Nations?
Yeah, so I've read Das Kapital, I've read the Communist Manifesto as
Okay.
well, Engels' Collective Works, etc. What do you think, if you think that communism is in any way
It's
us
dictatorship.
having wages or us having, a
It's
privatized means of
dictatorship.
production, you don't know what it is.
You choose my dreams, and I refuse to do that.
Who
you
are you
don't
arguing
get to
with?
dictate my
Where did you
dreams.
get that from?
What do you mean?
Well, haven't I? That was interesting.
Well, let's go. Justin, nice to meet you.
Justin, good to meet you.
How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. So I need to pick your brain a little bit. You're saying U.S. is largely socialist. I want to focus on the word largely. So why do you believe it is largely socialist?
Because 68% or so of the money that we take in goes towards entitlement programs.
So I think one of the things that is going to be major to me, it's like Zena was touching on earlier, is going to be the fact that socialism is a big part of it is going to be workers owning the means of productions. When we have President Biden, for example, telling that the railroad strikers, it's going to be illegal for them to strike, I don't see that as much of a workplace democracy.
Did you have a question, or you're just saying the fact that you don't agree with President Biden and what he said?
I'm just saying a core tenet of socialism is the workers owning the means of production. The workers currently do not own the means of production. So why do you believe it is largely socialist?
So you're saying the workers should own the means of production?
That is correct.
Okay, so to you, that's the definition of socialism.
That is a core tenet of it.
What else would you define as socialism? I'm curious.
There's a lot of different things. It's like Zena was touching on as well. Moneyless, stateless classes society. But I think more important than not, workers owning the means of production and workplace democracy.
Or are you more socialist?
They're the same term, man. Marx used them interchangeably.
The only difference I would put is because where I see in America, I think we are extremely getting close to being a socialistic nation with the amount of taxes that we have in place right now.
That's great.
But at least under communism, I can't survive. I would prefer us staying at the 10% tax rate. I think we're paying way too much taxes.
Why
And
would you
if
not be able to
if you-
survive?
I wouldn't be able to pursue my dreams that I have in place under communism.
I think you still could.
My mother's family, they were part of the Two-Day Party. The Two-Day Party in Iran was a communist party. They had escaped Armenia and Russia and came down to Iran, and they pursued communism. I grew up in a family where everything was about the rich are greedy, the rich people are bad, the rich people are this, and the rich people are that. My dad's side, they were imperialist. My dad's side, they said poor people are lazy. So one side, rich people are greedy. The other side, poor people are lazy. Who's right?
I would say that neither are right, of course.
I would say both are right and wrong, is what I would say.
Both are right.
And
okay.
wrong. Both
And
are
wrong.
right and wrong. Because I do believe there are extremely greedy rich people. And I do believe there are extremely lazy poor people. But I also believe there's a lot of hardworking poor people that are working, but they haven't found a way to get out of it. I agree with that as well.
So that's actually a major point right there. They're not able to get out of it.
You can get out of it. You could actually
But you
get out
just
of it.
said they're not able to.
No,
so.
because they're choosing not to develop. I just made an offer for a book recommendation here, so I'm not interested. If I sit there and somebody's giving you feedback and saying, "What about if you think about finding ways to
Offer me
improve
that
your
book
life?"
then. I'll check
You
it
would
out.
read the book?
Sure, why
I'd
not?
give you a handful of them.
We'll talk about this
I'll
after
give it to you
this.
afterwards.
Yeah,
But all
of
I'm saying,
course.
the point I'm trying to make to you is, if you can exist under a capitalistic society, and I can exist under a capitalistic society, so can she. But
Okay, we can both exist under a socialistic society.
Not under
It's not-
communistic, and under socialism, the incentive would be bad. Think about it this way.
Incentive is high under socialism as well, but that's not what we're doing.
During COVID, take the two states, California and New York. They lost $1 trillion of wealth that left. Do you know where they went to?
Where did they go
went
to?
to Texas, Nevada, Florida, Tennessee. You know why? Because
Why?
it's a better climate for entrepreneurs. Today, if you look at New York City,
Yeah,
you know
that's
Mamdani.
just
you
how
know,
the market
You know
works,
how
yeah.
Mamdani, you know who
I don't-
Mamdani is.
I understand how
You know who
markets-
Mamdani is. Are you
Yeah,
a
I
fan
know
of
Zohran.
Mamdani?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
I
from
love
New York.
Zohran.
Zohran's up there saying he doesn't believe billionaires should exist.
Correct.
I hope he wins. I hope he wins. You know why? Because he says, I don't believe billionaires should exist. And he's going to be the mayor of a city that has the most billionaires in America, 123. I hope he wins so we can see what happens to New York when the billionaires leave. When they leave, here's who's going to pay the price. The people that are left behind who were taking advantage of the taxes that billionaires were paying. You think the government's going to change their budget and
when there's a
expenditure?
$30 minimum wage,
Middle
I can't
America's gonna-
imagine that
Middle
there's just
America's
gonna
going to
be.
take the biggest hit if billionaires leave the state of New York. You'll see. Oh, you're back.
Hello
How
again.
are you? Good to see you.
Learn a bit more.
Okay.
Firstly, I want to start by saying that the US is not largely socialist because that's not what socialism is. Socialism is social or collective ownership by the workers or a community of the means of production, right? So we're talking about like city-run grocery stores, or we're talking about worker cooperatives, or even in some cases credit unions where a local community owns the bank that they take part in, right? That's what socialism is. Socialism is not when the government does stuff for you. It's not when they build roads. That happens under capitalist economies, it happens under socialist economies. But I'm also not sure you entirely know what capitalism is, and if it's okay, I'd like to ask a couple questions about your job.
Sure.
Because you're offering that. I know that you're Valuetainment, right? You run a YouTube podcast. You also run PHP Agency, right?
Yep.
Yes. And you sell life insurance policies, right?
Life insurance and annuities.
Yes. I read an article by the Daily Beast which argued that you make more money from recruitment fees to get people to work for you than you make money from selling those policies. Capitalism is when you provide a service and sell the labor of yourself or the person who works for you in return for money. But you're not really doing that, right? You're selling being part of the company through recruitment fees. I'm not sure that's capitalism.
How familiar are you with the insurance industry?
Pretty familiar.
Are you?
Yes.
You've been in the industry before?
No, my grandfather was, and I asked him a lot of questions.
So in the insurance industry, when you're in it,
yes,
you get paid
Yes.
by selling life insurance policies, and you get paid by selling annuities.
Yes.
We built a distribution channel of a company right after I left Morgan
Sure.
Stanley and Transamerica. We started the insurance company. We grew it, helping middle-income families who didn't have another opportunity to create wealth for themselves. I just came back from our event in Vegas.
Hold on, I'm
Let
not
me
sure
say
that's
this to
correct,
you.
though.
It is though.
It's not
I
correct,
just-
though, because
let me
what
make
do you
my
make more
point.
money
I just
from?
came back from. We don't make money from. We don't make more money from recruiting.
I read the Daily Beast article that did that. I also watched
So
CoffeeZilla's debate with you, where he pulled up receipts that the majority of the employees of your company don't make any money.
Here's a question for you. For you. Bring up CoffeeZilla.
Yeah.
Daily Beast is a different story. Go to CoffeeZilla.
Sure, of course.
Do you think if I was worried about my business model, I would go on CoffeeZilla? What do you think? Do you
I think that it's not really capitalist.
Hang on a second. Do you think if I was worried about my business model, I would go on CoffeeZilla? They were actually very strong when they came back after me. We had a 2-hour conversation.
Yes.
We finished it. It was good to go. We moved on. Their claims that only 1% or 2% make and nobody makes it in insurance, they're right. Most people don't make it in insurance. Just like most people who move to California don't make it in Hollywood.
So I believe
and
the
most people
technical
don't make it in
term
real
for when you
estate.
make more money from getting people to be part of a company than from actually selling a service is called a multi-level marketing scheme. Do you think that that's
No,
a
that's
fair
not what it is. Not
characterization
at all.
of your company? Why not?
Do you know what multi-level is?
Yes, I know. It's where you make more
Multi-level,
money from, it's sort of like a
that's not the
pyramid scheme,
definition.
wherein
No.
you make more money
Let
from
me-
getting people to be part of it and selling them
Let
to
me
be part of the
educate
company.
you. A pyramid scheme doesn't have
Sure.
a product. That's criminal. A multi-level marketing company is more like an Amway, an Herbalife, a New Skin, those companies.
But
because it pays you.
You are making more
multi-level.
money from getting people
No,
to be
it
part of your
pays
company
you-
than you are from making money from
That's-
actually providing
that's
a
not
service.
true. It's a
I would
claim by
argue.
Daily Beast. By the way, do you know what equality of earnings is?
Yes.
What's equality of earnings? Tell everybody what equality of earnings is. Go ahead.
Fair point. The quality of earnings isn't that like the value that's produced from when you make the money? Like how much from the labor that's produced, or am I wrong?
What is quality of earnings?
I gave you what I think
That's
the definition is.
Okay. So quality of earnings is I sit there and I want to sell the business to you.
Yeah.
You make an offer of $250 million. Okay? I tell you, this is my business, here's how much profit we make. You leave and you say, great, let's make a deal. I'll pay $250 million. We shake on it. Then you validate whether it is worth that or not by going and paying a big company a few $100,000 to check the quality.
So same deal as like having
your
someone
earnings.
look at the quality of the gold that you're going to buy.
PwC
basically.
came and they do a quality of earnings to say, is
Sure.
this company really worth this? They get to make a decision whether the company is truly doing what you or Daily Beast
Yeah.
claims to do.
The
And you know what
value
ended
comes
up
from your
happening?
brand. It
You know
comes
what
from
ended
going
up
on
hap-
podcasts like that, even when they
do you know-
expose the
do you know
business
what
model,
ended up
because you're
happening?
not selling.
Do you know what ended up happening? Don't make claims
Do
you
you
don't
know
know
what
about.
you're selling?
Do you know what ended up
You know
happening?
what you're selling,
Do
right?
you know what ended up
Do you
happening?
know what you're selling?
The company
You're selling
ended
your
up
personal
buying,
brand. You're selling the idea,
No,
because when you're offering
you're-
people here jobs, right?
Right.
You're saying that they would have to pay you money to get that. So in reality, you're trying to convince them to pay you money to be part of your
claims
company.
of defaming. Be very careful defaming when you don't know the facts.
You have a recruitment
be very
fee.
Careful. No. Be very
You do
careful
have a
claiming.
recruitment fee.
Be very
That's all.
careful making that claim when you said people here have to pay to work at our company.
It's a recruitment
Be very
fee.
careful. No,
Right?
those are two different things.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Tatiana.
Tatiana?
Yeah,
Good to
Anya,
meet you.
but yes. And your name's Patrick, right?
It is.
And I don't know a lot about you before coming
That's
in
even better.
today. But why do you use socialism and capitalism like in this instance? I've noticed a lot of people have defined the vast differences, but you're insisting that we're still like a more socialist like country. Why are you insisting
So
upon
that's
that?
a fair question. So for me, there's different definitions you can have. Under communism, to me, it's 100% taxes, meaning I can't go create my own property. If I want to build a billion-dollar company, I can't do it under communism. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I guess it is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
So capitalism, I would ideally like to see taxes between 10 to 30% max. I'd like a flat tax, but somewhere between 10 to 30%, because I still do think there's certain things that the government needs to do. Military protection, certain things. Socialism to me is 30% and up. Anything above that you're taking the money away from me without my choice to use it for things where we get to 68% of entitlement programs, I'm not a fan of that.
Okay, so let's talk about where we're at. I believe you said reasonable wage and minimum wage. What about a livable wage? And we haven't really talked about livable wages because they
What do
kind
you
of
think
differ.
about minimum wage? So what do you think
So
minimum wage
I
should
think
be?
we have a long way to go.
Okay.
I'm not really a big fan of these little increment things, especially when it's like it's not like rent. It's stopping and leveling
Mhm.
out. It's like it's far exceeding what most people
I don't
can,
disagree, for
make.
sure. Yep.
And so I'm just wondering how you still can sit here and say that when I know you like to talk about you came up from Haagen-Dazs and all this other stuff.
In Glendale
And-
Galleria, 20
okay,
minutes away from
great.
here.
Love that for you. But we're talking about where you are today and where I am, a majority of these people in the
Sure,
room.
sure.
And I
And
haven't
I believe
really
you can
heard
change.
Yes, we can
Okay.
change, but I think that there's certain systems.
Are you
in
place.
place.
Minimum wage? You want to address the minimum wage
We can talk
topic?
minimum wage, but I like to say livable wage
Okay.
because I think they're
What do
two
you
very
think it
different
should
things.
be? What do you think it should be?
I think that we should go per state because every state is different in
Give me
terms
a
of what they
number.
can
Where do you
have.
live? You live in
I
California?
live in California.
What do you think
so
it should be?
Based
Minimum
on the
wage.
MIT living wage calculator, it's an actual livable wage calculator. It's $27.81 should be the starting, and then if you have kids and so forth, then you can like go up from there.
Okay.
But starting at about $27
what I'm-
hourly.
So what? Let's look at case studies of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
California chose to increase the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
restaurant workers. Do you know what happened in the state of California? Mass exodus.
Mm-hmm.
People left and went different places. You know what restaurant owners did? Like, I can't compete with these guys if you raise the minimum wage. But the challenge with minimum wage is also the following. So say there's two companies. You have Walmart, okay, in Bakersfield, pick a city, and you have a different supermarket that's been in the same family for 60 years. The governor here says we're going to raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Who do you think can afford it? The market that's been within a family, the small business, or you think Walmart? Who do you think can afford to go to $20 an hour minimum wage?
So that's why I think we have to factor in other systems other than capitalism. I think you're
but
kind
what-
of making the point that's been made a few times today, where we
No,
can't
it
just
hasn't
look
been
at
made. This
one
hasn't been made.
thing.
No, this hasn't made. The point I'm making here is anytime a Bernie Sanders gets up and says, let's raise the minimum wage for $15, and he was caught in his campaign not paying his own workers $15, $13 an hour, and he had to talk about it and apologize that even a guy that's a socialist wasn't paying a minimum wage. But if you raise it to $15, Amazon celebrates.
Okay.
Walmart celebrates. Do you know why? Because the employers from this supermarket that have been working for this family for the longest time, they can't afford to pay that. So they leave and go to Amazon and Walmart. What happens? The bigger companies keep getting bigger. The small businesses go out of business because of minimum wage.
Okay, so you mentioned Bernie Sanders. I didn't mention him. Cool for Bernie Sanders. Whatever. Do you pay a livable wage or a minimum wage for your employees?
There's not a single soul in our company that I pay $15 an hour or $20 an hour.
Okay, so are you paying them livable wages though?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Of course we
based
are.
on your standards
because
or based
of my
on
choice.
like the stats?
Because of my choice.
So you're
Because
determining what people's livable wages
well,
are?
no, I look at the marketplace and I see what's going on, and I get to pick and choose what percentile of people I want to hire. Do I want to hire bottom 10%, 25%, 50%? I'll pay a little bit more because I want to get somebody that's got a little bit more experience.
Okay. Okay.
Tanya?
Titania.
Titania? Thank you.
Hi again, Patrick.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Can you remind me again why you think this country is largely socialist?
Out of the $4.9 trillion of revenue that we get in, 4.8, 4.9, 68% goes to entitlement programs. That's the reason why I say America's socialism.
Do you think that we should have a say in where our taxpayer dollars go?
That's why we have elections.
Okay.
And you vote for it. Yeah.
So you agree that we should have a say in where our taxpayer dollars go?
If you're asking me who should have a right to vote, I would change the system in a major way of who would have the right to
I'm
vote.
not asking you if people
You're
should-
asking me a question,
I'm not
and I'm
asking you
giving
who
you-
should have the right to vote.
Right.
I'm asking you, do you think that
The
our
current system
taxpayer dollars should be
allows-
dictated by us?
The
where that
current
goes?
election allows you to vote and decide who you want to be your candidate.
Absolutely. Okay. So I would argue that the biggest handouts go to billionaires because we give billions and billions of dollars in subsidies to billionaires every single year. Elon Musk just got a huge raise. Not sure why. He's worth over like hundreds of billions of dollars.
You're talking be specific. You're talking about SpaceX?
I'm talking
The
about
subsidies,
SpaceX,
you're talking
Tesla. I'm
SpaceX?
talking about the companies
Okay.
that we fund as taxpayers. So why did we never vote for that?
Why did you never vote for the money going
Do
to
you
some
see
of
an,
these
do you
companies?
see an issue with the fact that we as
Well,
taxpayers didn't
if-
have a
if
say
you're-
in,
if-
first of all, electing this tech oligarch?
Once you elect somebody,
deciding where our taxpayer
Yeah.
dollars go.
once you elect who you elect,
Mhm.
what they do next, you don't have a say during that time.
We didn't elect
until
them.
the next election. No, I'm talking Congress, Senate. They make a decision on who they give the money to and they
But
approve.
he's been getting this amount of subsidies through every administration. I'm not
Let's-
just referring to the
let's
Trump
talk
administration.
let's talk about how he's done, okay? So the NASA was shut down many years ago,
Mhm.
okay? Since then, how has NASA done? Trying to find a way to go to space. What has SpaceX done? SpaceX
What
has
has
been
NASA
able
done?
to do
What has
to
NASA
go to
done?
space
NASA gave us the
1/20th
satellite,
of a
which
cost.
you use every time you
1/20th
use your
of a
phone.
cost. If you let me finish, NASA versus SpaceX. Elon Musk, as much as you hate him, Elon Musk was able to go to space for 1/20th of a cost because government organizations
Elon Musk has the
don't
ability
manage
to
finances
eradicate extreme
accordingly.
poverty in this country, and he chooses to send rockets into space and make extremely ugly cars that we never actually funded.
Believe it or
So I
not,
would
most
argue-
liberals drive his cars, so
Well, I would say the Cybertrucks. It's a poor decision aesthetically.
the
But
Cybertruck
I'm not
is a poor
discussing the
decision.
aesthetics of his
Yeah.
of his products.
It's so funny because when you say what you say about, say, the Democratic side on the climate change side, the guy that's worked towards that the most, you guys loved him till he supported Trump. Elon was your favorite 8 years ago until he supported Trump. The moment he went into Trump, this guy's a horrible guy. This guy's a terrible guy.
To be fair, I've hated Elon Musk consistently throughout my adult life. And I also think that he is someone who has benefited immensely from the government. That's why I find hypocrisy in what you're saying.
I don't disagree
I also think
on that side.
he's benefited immensely from the exploitation of labor overseas. He's benefited immensely from his extremely aggressive union tactics, union busting tactics. So I'm saying, like, why
Is he a
are
net
we...
positive to you for society?
Is he a net positive for me personally?
Is he a net positive for society, not for you?
I wouldn't say so.
You
no.
don't think he is?
No, I wouldn't
Who
say so.
to you is a net positive to society? Bernie Sanders?
I mean, Bernie Sanders is, I would say he's a compromise candidate, but I would say that...
He's a compromise candidate.
Yes, I would
Is
say he's a compromise
AOC a net positive to society?
I would say net positive, yes.
More than Musk is?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? Tell me
Yeah.
why.
Because AOC wants to introduce a Green New Deal, and I
Mhm.
think that the New Deal is the
For
closest
$30
thing...
trillion?
Okay, Trump literally just added $3.4 trillion to
It's
our
a big
deficit,
difference
so I really don't want to
between
hear...
30 trillion and
Okay, so I'm
3
saying,
trillion.
I'm saying that I think that, you know, when we look at the system that we currently have,
Mhm.
I think that we need to redistribute the wealth in a significant way, and we need to reintroduce something like the New Deal.
Why
And I
don't
think
you-
AOC has been the closest to doing that. I'm not
Why
saying I'm the
don't
biggest fan of
you-
her, but I'm saying that we need a marginal tax rate
Right.
that is something similar to the New Deal, 70 to 90%. Ideally, I would go for a wealth tax. Anyone over $999 million has to pay every year. But I'm saying that
Say that one more time. You would do what? Anybody that makes over...
I would introduce a wealth tax. So
Okay.
I'd say that anyone who makes over $999 million needs to pay. So I think that no one should be a billionaire. I think that we should put the cap.
No one should be a billionaire.
Absolutely not. Do you think that people can survive on
Right.
$999 million?
This isn't how life works.
Do you think someone could
This is
survive on
a-
$999 million? I'm asking you, do you
utopia.
think someone would be
You don't
okay?
get to dictate
Do you think
how
someone's
a
life would be
person
impaired if they
drives
had
and
only
builds.
$999 million
You don't get
instead
to
of $1 billion?
dictate that.
You're not answering the question.
Fortunately,
Answer
these
my
companies
question.
that continue to grow
Why are you avoiding my
created
question?
jobs for others.
Do you think someone
And
could
you in
reasonably
America
survive on
don't get to
$999
dictate
million?
how big a person wants to build their business. That's not
Why
true.
do you-
By the way,
why
why
do you
don't
think
you
we-
elect someone that pursues those policies? Bernie was your hero for many years. He became compromised.
I never said he was my hero.
But how did Bernie become compromised?
I said that
You said he's a
I
compromised
said he's a
candidate.
compromised
Why
candidate.
is he a compromised candidate?
I mean, he was definitely compromised by the Democratic Party, who didn't want him elected.
What happened?
I'm saying he's a compromised candidate in that I would go further than him, but I also know that he's probably the best we have right now, and I would like to see him as president, ideally, or someone similar. I think Zohran Mamdani, who you mentioned earlier, I think he's an excellent
wait
candidate.
for him to win. You know why
Why
I
is
can't
that?
wait for him to win? Because I can't wait for the data that comes out after he wins.
Mhm.
I can't wait to show you all the numbers in the next 4 years after he
If
wins.
rich people have to flee New York
They will.
because of his policies,
They
that
will.
means that they're too economically fragile
No,
to
because
handle
if you
those
don't appreciate
taxes.
people that create jobs, they will go somewhere
What kind
that
of jobs
they're
are we
appreciated.
creating? We
a
have to look-
high-paying
we have to
job.
look past job
they
creation.
pay high-paid jobs.
Many of the
if you
jobs-
bring value to the market.
The reality is that Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
and Jeff Bezos,
Right.
they have huge monopolies over our market, and they're able to pay as little in
I think the
wages
only
as
company
they'd
that
like.
has a monopoly- I think the only company
they
that
quite
has a
literally
monopoly-
control the wages and the costs in our economy.
Right.
When Amazon has 60% control over e-commerce,
I am
they can quite literally
hoping
decide what
you-
wages and what costs people can earn
I am
and pay.
your candidate AOC.
I never said she was
you
my
said
candidate.
she's a net
You're
positive
making
to
false
society.
endorsements on my
You said
behalf.
AOC is a net positive to society
I
more
said
than
she's-
Elon Musk.
absolutely,
Perfect.
yes.
When AOC was in New York, Amazon wanted to bring 25,000 jobs to New York.
Mhm.
These were jobs that were paying
What do those jobs look
$150
like?
a year.
Because
Let
from
me-
what
let
I
me finish.
understand, the
These
people
were
who work
jobs
for
that were
Amazon
paying
have to
$150
walk
a year.
10 to 15 miles
These
per
were
shift. They have
these
higher
were jobs
injury
that were
rates
paying
than the industry
$150 per year.
average.
These were jobs that were paying $150 a year.
I think we even stopped.
She went against it. They went to a different place. 25,000 jobs they lost in New York.
And what would those jobs look like?
$150K a year minimum.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
I'm going to go with my friend here. So I chose Mason because he was the only one that came up to me and said, Pat, I'd like to have a reasonable conversation with you. You came up. There was 3 other people I was thinking about. And because you were fair and respectful, I chose you.
So my claim is America has never been a meritocracy.
Okay. Tell me why.
So I think that when you see wealth disparity and the amount that it gives influences to certain individuals, specifically from a starting point, if we're looking at America like a race and someone is starting 2 inches from the finish line and somebody is starting a mile back, we would not say that this is a judgment of their merit. We'd say that this is a system that allows those with the most influence to continue to be successful.
So is it about some of the people that got generational wealth have an advantage over others that didn't get it?
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying that that's a moral failure. I'm just saying when people claim that capitalism is a meritocracy, that's just factually inaccurate. And we shouldn't be allowed to lie here. Like we should try to be coming to a common consensus.
So capitalism is not a meritocracy?
No.
So you mean to tell me nobody here can go out there and win if they wanted to at the highest level?
No, I think that there's a probability that people can have social mobility or increase their economic conditions. It does not mean that everybody is able to. Some people could be a billionaire in the circle, not everybody could be.
If you're saying not everybody's able to, I fully agree. I can play baseball, but I'm probably not going to play in Major League Baseball.
I can spend the money on a lottery ticket. Doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to win the lottery.
I agree. So what's your point? I agree with you there.
So my point is that America is not a meritocracy. You said that.
No, you said there's 2 things. Anybody at what levels, you can have success. To me in life, there's 3 different types of people. You got overachievers, you got achievers, you got underachievers. Let me unpack this for a second. We got 10 minutes.
You can.
Overachiever, achiever, underachiever, okay? You can find a guy in school. We all remember the kid in school that we're like, that kid's gonna win in life. And he didn't. He was supposed to be an overachiever. He ended up being an underachiever. And there were kids in school that we looked at, we said, that guy's not gonna do anything with life. Dude, stay away from that guy. He ends up winning, he's an overachiever. So it's not about what you're, end up doing in your life. It's how close you reach to your capacity.
The winning that you're talking about, quote unquote, is wealth accumulation.
Not necessarily wealth accumulation.
It is. That's exactly what you just said.
If you end up, I have friends that make $120,000 a year. They have a good life. They're happily married, got 2 kids, and they chose to go live in a place like Victorville. They chose to go live in a different place. But to me, that is winning. They're contributing to society.
I have a genuine question for you, Patrick.
Please.
Do you think that a nurse or a hedge fund manager offers more social utility?
This is documented. 14 years ago, I made a video talking about the 10 most honorable professions, and a hedge fund manager wasn't on that list, but a nurse was.
Wow.
I believe what nurses do, when my father's at the hospital and I see how they attend to him, you have no idea how much respect I have for nurses.
Right.
It's a tough job.
However, but I would say the hierarchy of what our society looks like does not prioritize that in the same way that you're saying that it does.
But there's a difference. So there's a difference. Do I think a nurse is more important to the market than a basketball player? Yes. But the market wants to watch a basketball player play, so they pay Steph Curry $60 million a year.
We both agree that America's failing, right? Your last claim was about how America's socialist, and that's a bad thing. I assume that you're saying because of government intervention. Is
Absolutely.
That correct? So you think capitalism can exist without government intervention?
I think you need law and order because there will be abuse if you don't have it. In our insurance company, when I was run the company, I had to make sure there was law and order in there. If you don't have certain compliance, abuse will come in. When abuse comes in, if it's a free-for-all.
Are part of those laws like labor laws?
That can also be abused. No, it's a fair question you're asking, but a part of that can also be abused. A lot of those guys go in with the right intentions. Then they become dividers and they pin the employer against the employee. So then that is the divide and conquer model is very effective.
I just want to break this down. Do you think that there are not mutually exclusive interests in owners and workers?
Do I think there's mutual interest with owners and workers?
Do you think that they have a symbiotic relationship and when they're trying to achieve the same goal?
I like to give my employees equity because if you own equity in the company, you no longer are an employee. You treat it as if it's your own company. So I prefer to give my employees equity, but it's my choice. I don't want the government forcing me to give them equity. I'll give you a story. Do you remember that story of a guy who said, I pay every single one of my employees $70,000 a year? What was this guy's name? I don't know if you remember this guy. This story went viral. Socialism, what a noble guy. Everybody retweeted it, the Bernies of the world. Phenomenal guy. I invited him on the podcast. He comes on the podcast. I said, so tell me about your noble cause that you pay everybody 70 grand a year. He says, well, I don't think anybody should make over 70 grand a year. You can live off of $70,000 a year. I said, perfect.
Right.
How many employees do you have? Let me make the point.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that this is conducive to our conversation.
I said, how many employees do you have? He says 100. I said, how many of those 100 own a single share of your company? None of them do. Who does? I do. You're a socialist claiming everybody should make that much money, but you're not giving equity?
I'm not endorsing this particular person. I'd love to look into this, and maybe I'll
what I'm
watch
trying to
the
tell you
interview
is
later.
There's
But
a
what
lot
I'm
of
trying to say,
contradictions
what I'm trying
in
to say,
socialism
yes. Oh,
when it comes
no,
down
we're
to
so
action.
close. There
Yeah.
are contradictions in the way that workers are trying to get as much wages as possible. That's just guaranteed. I want to get the maximum amount for the labor that I put into it. A owner wants to do the exact opposite. It's not that they want to pay people what they're deserved. They want to pay people what they can get away with. That's just virtually true.
I
yes,
think,
because what you
I
say.
don't think that's
yes,
the case. I
because
don't
you
think
say-
that's the case.
No, you already
I
agree
don't
that
think that's
coercion
the
exists
case.
in the system.
It does,
You're just
but
saying
I
that
don't think-
socialism. You're saying that socialism is the government mandating owners to do it, but. You're saying that markets do the exact same thing. You just said that the market price determines.
Don't put
what
words in my mouth. I like you. You're respectful. You're a nice guy. Don't put words in my mouth.
Did you not say that markets determine market rates?
I haven't. What I'm telling you is there will be abuse in business, and if there is a person
Okay, I'm
like
going to ask
that,
you the same question as soon as you're done. But continue.
there is abuse in business. Some people will take advantage of that. But the benefit of a free market capitalism is if I don't treat you fairly, you go work for him. If he doesn't treat you fairly, you go work for him. Eventually, if you bring enough value, guess who can't afford to lose you? I can't afford to lose you.
Do you
if I
think
can't afford
that
to lose
markets
you,
determine market
if
rates?
I can't afford to lose you, guess what I have to do to you?
Do you think that markets determine market rates?
You didn't answer my question. If
Okay.
I can't afford to lose you, guess what I do to you?
Do you know what a monopsony is?
Tell me about it.
So do you know the difference between a monopoly and a
I know
monopsony?
monopoly. Tell me about monopoly.
Okay, so a monopoly is a single seller who has rare competition within the selling of the distribution. That creates like inflated prices and that can hurt consumers. But a monopsony is one single buyer. So this is an employer. There are things called company towns. You brought up the example of Walmart outpricing small businesses.
Sure.
I think that's a fantastic example.
On the minimum wage side.
Right,
Yeah.
of how there are large businesses that utilize their leverage and their influence and their capital in order to determine what those wages look like in a given particular place.
Sure.
So what I want to argue is minimum wages seem to stifle monopolies because they allow people to start at the same floor rate. You're saying that big businesses have an advantage when there's a minimum wage because they can pay more.
They do.
We are
They
also
do.
advocating for higher taxation rates and capital gains taxes on these businesses that are supposedly taking advantage of the system.
I think.
And wait. You can invest this in tax breaks for small businesses, for people that have less employees. Maybe you say that less than 5 employees, they have certain tax incentives, so they're not taxed at the same rate as these large conglomerates. But that does not mean that a minimum wage is a bad idea, because like most people here said, you can't survive on less than $7 an hour in most places
You know
across
what's
the
the
country.
great thing about business and numbers and
What's-
data is every idea is getting exposed. During COVID, all the policies that came out from the leftist side, they're all getting exposed today.
Name two.
Within time, everybody realizes what works and
Wait,
what
can
doesn't
you name
work.
those policies
when,
besides just
when
saying that they
states
failed?
who chose kids to stay home instead of going to school.
When is that a socialist policy?
That is a control, because when a government is ran in a way that they're controlling.
That's not socialism, my friend.
Socialism is a form of
Socialism
control.
is a workers' control of their
Communism is the
own
ultimate control.
No, socialism is workers' control of their own workplace.
Socialism is a form of control. Communism is the ultimate control.
See, you're using this rhetorical device as saying that
Yeah,
capitalism
but
equals freedom, socialism equals control.
I want to
and
be
I hear how
respectful
that,
to you, and I've given you a couple questions that you haven't answered yet.
I'll answer any question.
I want to go back to the question
the
that I asked
rhetorical
you.
strategy that you're using might be beneficial for a large media platform. It's not based in reality.
If you bring value to me, and you're so effective to my company, if you get to a point that I don't give you a good salary and I don't give you equity, what's going to happen to you most likely?
I'm going to try to start a union within my workplace, so that way we can collectively bargain on how to raise the floor
That's
for all
one
of
of the
us.
options, but guess typically what ends up happening?
What happens? They're
you
busted?
leave and you go to a different company and they
Are
give
you saying the
equity.
owners bust the union? Is that what you're saying?
No,
it's
that's
not
not what
successful.
I'm saying. I'm not talking union. You're talking about a different
What do you
candidate,
think about
different
unions?
person. I think in some places they work. I told you earlier, in many cases they're divisive.
We agree. You also mentioned Wealth of Nations. You like Adam Smith?
I think a lot of his ideas, yes.
Do you disagree, or do you also agree that landlords are parasites?
I don't agree landlords are parasites.
Adam Smith,
No,
even
I
Wealth of
don't- I
Nations
don't-
author
I
said
don't-
that.
I don't. I
He
know
said
you're-
that rent is...
You're cherry picking. I don't think landlords are parasites. I think in many
Oh, gotcha.
cases, when you think about what's happening with New York right now, this is why I'm telling you guys, I hope all of us reunite in 4 years and we have a conversation, and I hope Mamdani wins. I am hoping Mamdani wins because that case study is going to get opened up and all of you guys are going to see
Can
it.
we both agree that corporate Democrats are a stain on this country?
Corporate Democrats
like Democrats that utilize their leverage and utilize their influence to maximize their own private wealth is a bad thing that we should discourage?
I think if it's their choice. I don't think you and I get to tell them what to do and what not to do.
So you think that like insider trading should be allowed?
I'm not for insider trading whatsoever.
But you just said it's their choice.
No, if you're being
you can use their influence.
If you're specific with insider trading, that's a different conversation.
I just think that all of these are examples of why capitalism is not a meritocracy, especially when you're saying politicians who utilize their influence to maximize their own wealth.
Could be right
when you're talking about landlords who are profiting off of necessity for people, or you're talking about business owners who stifle unions for people that just want to collectively organize.
You could be right if the data was shown. I'll shake your hand, absolutely. I'm not trying to disrespect you. No.
Thank you.
You've been very
Appreciate
respectful. No. But for me to tell you this, everything here can be proven based on data.
Correct.
If your policies are so attractive, I'm going to come to you.
Empirical data shows that worker cooperatives are not only more
you.
sustainable to market collapses, but they also provide more of an actual attachment to the work that those workers have. The alienation of labor is absolutely making people hate their jobs. Why do you think most people watching probably don't like the workplace that they're in, but still agree that there's some problem in America, whether they're saying it's immigrants or whether they're saying it's billionaires? What the problem is in America is people don't feel an actual attachment to what they're producing in the world.
About Social Security? What do you think about what FDR did?
Wait, do you have nothing to say about those worker cooperatives?
No, because your point's been made. Go back to Social Security. This has been done with, right? If we have a couple minutes, what do you think about Social Security and how FDR came up with it?
Yeah, I think FDR, from most historians, are placed in the top 3 of all presidents, and that's from conservatives and Democrats. I think that FDR got a lot of things great. I really like his second bill of economic rights. I think it's very vital that we provide people with housing, we decommodify things that are necessities. Do you know the difference between elastic and inelastic goods?
Stay on Social Security.
Oh, so you don't know the difference?
What do you think about Social Security? Stay on that.
Okay. Well, Social Security, I think, was initially had as a social safety net to add a supplemental income to people's pensions. So most people going into like the 1950s all the way up to the 1980s were given pensions by corporations as a promise to, if you work for my firm, I'll make sure that I supplement the exact same salary that you're getting throughout the rest of your life.
Okay.
Now, what Ronald Reagan did was he changed the pensions to contribution-based retirement, which means I have to put this in the 401k, I have to put it in the stock market, and if the stock market collapses...
Do you think Social Security ended up being a system that worked?
I think that Social Security is definitely needed as a supplemental income. And right now, since we have contribution-based retirements, it's absolutely needed, because if you don't want old people eating cat food, we probably need some sort of sustainable income for them.
When he came up with Social Security, do you think his intention was to have 74 million people use it today? Do you think that's what he thought was going to happen?
Yeah, and I think it's because you're not gutting the program in its entirety. So you can say that Social Security is a failure if you take the wheels off of a car. The car's not going to run. But if you continue to buff it up and you make sure that you have good guardrails, it can be a successful program.
The challenge is, a lot of time when you come up with a noble idea to try to fix something today, ends up getting bigger and you never expected it. When Social Security first came out in 1935, the first benefits were paid in 1937, and it was paid in a lump sum. At that time, we had 128 million people living in America. Do you know how many people got Social Security?
Tell me.
54,000. Do you know when benefits started?
Tell me.
65 years old. So let me say this again to you. Life expectancy was 61. Social Security benefits started at 65.
Right. So you're saying because we've increased life, people need to work longer, right?
0.04%.
So grandma should be working at the
Let me make my point,
right
and then you can say anything you want to say.
Well, I'm just saying, you said as life expectancy increases, people should be working longer.
Let me tell you
today. You want to extend the retirement age,
correct? If you bring that to today, and you bring the math, exact same formula as the great FDR came up with.
See, Patrick, here's the difference between our worldviews. You're saying that because
today,
Social Security,
there's 340 million people. Let me say the point, and then I'll let you speak as long as you want to speak.
Great.
So that went from, math again for you, 54,000 out of 128 million people, 0.04%. Life expectancy 61, benefits start 65. Today, it's 74 million out of 340 million, that's 21%. When life expectancy is 78, benefits start at 65. Do you know who's going to pay the price on Social Security? Not my generation.
Yeah, if
yours
we keep
is.
doing cuts, correct. If we keep doing cuts,
no, because you're going to run out of money.
Payments,
you're going to run out of money.
No, that's not how it works. So the difference between our worldview, Patrick, is you're saying not only should people work longer into life because life expectancy has increased, but they should work longer into life without guarantees for health care, without preventative care, and that's not only going to increase the deterioration of people's living conditions, it's also going to lead to a worse economy. Because let me tell you, 70-year-olds not going to be the most productive members of our economy. They should be spending time with their families. They should be easing into their passing away. We shouldn't be forcing grandma to go to the mill.
It's going to be on your back. You'll be paying for this in 30 years.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I think that Patrick is a really great salesman. I think that he came in and confidently sold what capitalism is. But I think that the main point of today really showed that capitalism's best product is giving excuses for its own failures.
I don't think that we should be giving these people a large platform to amass a larger following, but I do think that we should expose these people to the light. And I think that even if people have horrendous and repulsive views like he did, I want to hear them because I want to know who those people are.
I also don't think that he really listened to a lot of the claims. I also don't think everyone listened to his claims either. So I don't know how productive of a dialogue it was, but maybe we convinced some people at home one way or the other, and maybe there's some value to that, maybe not.
My vision for America is if there's anything that's happened after COVID, we used to be here. We disagreed on issues here. This is center, this is libertarian, this is conservative. And then during COVID, we went here, 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 where we are in a very interesting place that some people don't even want to talk to somebody else that they don't agree with. It's gotten to the point that we are a little bit too divided right now, and I'd like to see America be more united than as divided as it is.